Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Owlite Society, a story where we don't get sued by Nickelodeon and tell you amazing stories.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And those
Thank
of
you
you that
for
aren't,
it, Sunday.
oh, yeah, definitely think of Feel It Sunday. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the reference, Owlite is a really awesome but fancy way of saying midnight. See, so it's a whole thing. It's clever, just so you know.
It
It's supposed
is.
to be clever.
How
It's
does
really
one
clever.
join the Owlite Freak Show?
Yeah, see, I got an Owlite Freak Show too. You guys will see a lot more about the Owlite Freak Show coming up. I was going to do a little mini video walkthrough for you guys, but then we ended up having 2 meetings today, so that was yeah, that was no bueno. They were good meetings, so
Yay!
Silly
we just
meetings.
realized we had I think we decided it was like 26 or 27 days until we are actually I'm standing there and people are in front of me, like customers. So it's kind of getting on the terrifying level now.
Yes,
Uh,
and I truly enjoyed the lovely streamers who actually went through and got the Christmas show and the walkthroughs of the previous years. So I'm hoping another one gets to come through.
Yeah, that's something that we're definitely that our owner Fred's definitely allowing, within reason. So we're hoping to see a couple people back definitely this year.
if you're
I
wondering
don't
what
know.
they're talking about, Raz is a haunter and he's running things in Hell's Dungeon. Oh, and Hinata says hi.
Yeah, and Matt too. Matt is one of our actors over there at Hell's Dungeon, conveniently located in Dayton, Ohio.
Tom Dog.
Do you
But
have
yeah.
a name?
Do what? Matt
Or-
doesn't have a
I
name.
was asking, Matt does not have a special name for his character?
He does.
Oh, it's a Propz the clown.
Prop? Oh, okay.
Why don't you tell him about your character? It's actually pretty fucking awesome, man.
Oh, so
Yeah.
first, it's kind of based off of Five Nights at Freddy's concept a little bit with animatronic clown. Obviously, his name is I think. Oh crap! I can't remember his name
You
right
usually
now.
know it too. You
I
usually
know.
it.
But yeah, I just expanded on it more. You won't know until the last second that if I'm real or not. I've got it down pack, and Raz here helped me learn how to do all of it.
Yeah.
So big props to him. Props from Props.
Props. Yeah, his setup too is like a 50s style animatronic with an actual 3-piece suit, not like an actual clown costume. So he does like the movements and he's practiced them so much that unless you know him, you cannot tell that he's you can't tell that he's a real person at all.
Oh
Especially
no!
with the mask on, but it looks really good. And this year he's got a stage and he's inside this big enclosed box. And he's got a button that when you press it makes sounds and music and stuff happen. So that's kind of his cue to start his thing. And then other surprises happen later that we won't talk about, like after you hit the button. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
You are the clowns.
Yeah, but his whole room is set up with both a mix of antique and modern working animatronics. So it's like it's a really cool fucking setup that
yes.
Between him and Fred that they came up with all this. And clowns don't fucking bother me remotely. We all know how I feel about clowns. Let me tell you, in the middle of the night or the middle of the day, it doesn't matter when it's dark down there and you're just going through your phone for a second because you don't want to walk all the way to the power box, and you just go through that section of the haunt and you're looking at all the animatronics and you're just going, fuck.
I had an ex who was scared to death of dolls, and he got looped into doing some urban exploration at one point, and they went to like an old Chuck E. Cheese's.
Oh yeah.
And when they got in there, they'd taken all of the like suits and fur and everything off, so it was just the mechanical part sitting there.
Gosh.
And he just had nightmares about that for years.
I believe it, man.
They're super creepy with no like actual costume on.
Yeah,
Just the eyes.
I love taxidermy and all that kind of stuff, but I think saying like partial robots kind of thing makes it a little bit.
Yep. It's like their frame and their eyes and a couple of other little things, and that's it. And you're just like, what the fuck am I looking at right now, man?
Have like iRobot antique version that's going to come out and kill you.
Yeah. I think last year at one point in time, one point in time, we even like attached what looked like a plug to Matt's costume, like to his pants, so it looked like he was supposed to be plugged into a wall.
Nice.
Fun fact: he's going to be appearing in a story sometime, if not this year, early next year, with Slippy.
Oh,
There's
very
going to be a
cool.
Slippy Propz story that I'm working on right now. So,
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Cool.
Ice Cream Man.
yeah.
I look forward to that.
Let's just hope that the ice cream doesn't short my circuits.
Oh, I'm sure Slippy will find some way to do so.
Yeah.
He's an ornery little.
Slippy, hopefully, we'll be able to grab him sometime in the near future too. I know I picked this around a little bit, and I don't mind talking a little bit about it now. But we are going to be doing a show at the end of this month that is pretty much all about wrapping up for the season, starting the fall season. So we'll be talking to you guys a lot then about like new programming and things moving to different nights and all kinds of stuff like that for you at home. But one of the things I'm working on is a Paranormal type show where we're going to bring in some haunters from different locations. Always at least one from our home haunt, and then a couple other people. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of cool shit. But I'm definitely hoping to grab him at least once or twice for that, for sure. I'm going to bug him about it. He's not too busy during haunt seasons, I know. Trust me, we know how that is. I have no idea how that just happened.
I don't know either.
My mouse, and it just happened. That was creepy.
So, real quick, shout back out to Tom Dog's here. Everybody, go watch his show too.
Hey, Tom Dog. Where are you, man? Why aren't you here?
Go hop on over to Brill Pro, YouTube.com at TomArcade69. He does some great shows. He does some hanging out and chatting. He does some wrestling stuff. He does some comparisons or tries out the new things that are being released by different products. Like if, this flavor of new special flavor of Coke, or he tried the new Whoppers and stuff like that. He does some great stuff.
And Homer Simpson, impressions. That's the word. Great Homer Simpson impressions.
As well as Al Pacino.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Also, didn't he just get a haircut? Because if I recall correctly, I just saw a picture of Tom here this week, and he's looking dapper as shit, man. Like,
got new glasses.
Oh, it's the glasses. That's what it was.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. It just completely transformed me. I almost thought it was a different person when I saw the picture in my feed. I was, wait, that's not. That's Tom. I'm so excited.
It's Tom.
It's Tom.
We love you, Tom.
It's looking good.
Tom's part of our family.
Definitely.
Yes.
So
what's up with this? So he's got to be. I think we're at that age and point where anyone that puts up with our shit is just pretty much family.
Matt's like, yeah.
No, Matt knows maybe more than anyone around here. I assure you.
He's marrying into the family. He's on purpose now.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, people have asked me how I'm related to Matt for years. I just say, oh, Matt's my kid, Matt's my son. So it's not really. Yeah. It's not different for all of us. It's the same as it's always been. It's just. It is different, but it's weird, man.
There are rings involved
a bigger
and
stake
giraffes.
on wanting to prove he wants to be there forever.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
I think he should run for the hills. That's my opinion. I mean, he should run very far away and hide for as long as he can. But basically down here is for.
I think we need to have Matt share with us real quick. Before we get into the whole storytelling thing for tonight, we are doing campfire stories.
That's one of his planned stories tonight.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Awesome.
We're going to make him talk about the engagement because there's a story behind it.
So cool.
It's months in the making.
Technically, a little over 2 years in the making, in some aspect.
True.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and start it off with that, and then we got a special video we're going to talk about in a minute. But why don't you go ahead and do that first, man? Tell that story.
All right. So about, I said 2 years ago, I sat down with Raz and I asked him, and Michelle as well, if I could marry their daughter. And obviously some very crazy stuff happened and there was some bonds broken, but everything's repaired now.
Yeah. For a while.
Oh, yeah. And
COVID was a crazy time for all of us,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was, let's say about 2 or 3 months ago, Raz we were at Kings Island, and it was just, I'm pretty sure it was just me and you.
Yeah.
And
one of our days.
he brought it up to me, and I was like, yeah, man, I think it's like the perfect time. I've been waiting for so long. Just like, let's do it. And we spent weeks just planning all this out, just trying to come up with the best like storytelling, because I'm a romantic at heart. Not a lot of people know that about me. I can normally keep to myself, but I show my love in a very explosive way.
Yep.
And so we're just going through all these different vacations and how we can do it. And when it was all said and done, we ended up going to staying in town, getting 2 separate rooms at was it Super 8?
Yes.
That-
Hey, Matt, was their pool heated? Sorry, on their sign it actually says heated pool, and like it's right above where the pool is, and everybody would come to the pool and look at each other and go, "Hey, is this pool heated?" And
Yeah,
just
literally
point to the sign.
nonstop. You cannot hear one night without somebody saying that. So we booked that, and we had a week or two in advance. Michelle actually helped showed me this giraffe ring that I was thinking for a while. I was like, why don't I just use the certificate, which I adopted a giraffe. I didn't tell that part yet.
Yeah, we adopted a giraffe. Well, there are many different companies to find the right giraffe.
Oh yeah. And she showed me this ring. It's giraffe, and it's they're all around the ring, and there's a big heart in the middle. And I couldn't get it out of my mind for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. And I was like, I need to get this ring. And it was awesome. It came in, and the certificate came.
Originally, the ring was going to be late.
Yeah.
It was going to actually come the day after we were going to be there. We were just going to secretly come out and get it, basically. And then the certificate was supposed to maybe not arrive until after this whole thing was over all of a sudden.
True, yeah. And the day before we were about to leave, it finally came in, which we spent that same day trying to create a different one using Photoshop.
Yeah.
Just for it to come in.
It was GIMP, actually, I think. But yeah, he was making a fake version of it that, it was still legit, but like he was just trying to use the pictures and trying to make one, and then he did all this work and it looked so good, and then the real one came in. Like,
and then the real one just came right in. Oh my god! But of course, I was nervous the day of. I literally was like shaking, and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, is there something off going on about you?" And that Friday, the first thing that we did was wake up and get ready and then go to the zoo. The zoo parking lot, the handicap, we had the luckiest spot in the whole world.
oh yeah,
It was right
crazy.
next to the stairs, right next to the escalators that led right to the zoo. And I was like, you know what? That's a sign. Like, I don't have to worry about
That was
anything.
the day before, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Oh shoot.
Well, yeah, because we were trying to figure out a way to like screw with Brooke to make her like even more think that wasn't what was happening. So that Friday was actually one of the hippos at the zoo's first birthday, and they had like cake and ice cream. Elliott actually signed a message to the hippo on the card. By the way, our whole company signed it, and and we were signing the card. We sing happy birthday to the hippo. So she literally thought half of our vacation was going down there for her to feed some giraffes and like spending a birthday with a hippo. It was hilarious.
So after Friday, on Saturday, what I meant for the perfect parking was on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I got my days mixed up. But that way it was like so perfect, and we went straight to the giraffe feeding. We brung our black backpack, and we got it all on video too. And
Yep.
so she's just looking at the giraffes, and we're in line, and Michelle just pulls out the little certificate and the ring, literally right behind her. She just didn't even notice at all.
I was on lookout too. I was like, now, do it.
And I slipped it right under my shirt, and we went through the whole entire giraffe feeding. And they gave us 2 different lettuces because obviously, for some reason, only giraffes at the zoo eat lettuce. But I gave them all to her because, come on now, it's her favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went to go find the giraffe that I had adopted for her, and I showed her the giraffe. And the moment that she saw Zoe the giraffe, I pulled from under my shirt and I gave her the certificate. And in the bottom right, it said, "Will you marry me?" Whenever she turned around and I was already on one knee, she just started shaking like this and was like, "Yes, yes, yes."
Meanwhile, everyone around him over there has already seen what is happening, and they see that he's trying to surprise her. So they're like gasping and like covering their mouths. And Brooklyn is so oblivious that she noticed none of this happening all around her.
No clue at all. And see, she's one of them. It's really hard to keep a secret from.
Yeah,
because she knows it. Like, she can pick up on it really quickly. But she was completely oblivious, and I think that was my favorite part about it. Besides, whenever we when we first went to the zoo, and we had already adopted the giraffe a week earlier, she was looking at the giraffe that she had adopted and was
without knowing it.
Yeah, without knowing it at all. And I thought that was like the best. That was my favorite things.
We had a lot of different cons going on different levels. Like, it's normal to take camera bags when we go on vacation. So we had like so many different layers of cons happening all at once to even explain all the weird things where she might get a clue something was happening. But she's pretty shocked, man. She's pretty shocked.
Yes, she was, man.
And so you put the ring on her then? She
was
all shaken?
And
upside down, but yes, he put the ring on her hand.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Of course, me full of anxiety and just excitement, I put the ring on backwards. She looked at it and she was like, "What is that?" and then I took it off her finger and flipped it over. She was like, "Oh my God."
Well, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
Definitely.
you so much.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, we had different we had like I think 5 or 6 different vacations planned at different levels of not knowing what we were going to be able to do. So there was like emails going back and forth between companies, there was safaris with other zoos, with so much shit going on. There was a SummerSlam in Detroit was involved at one point in time as the smoke screen for just a wrestling trip. Like, there were so many smoke screens.
So even before you're married, you guys have adopted. You have a baby Zoe giraffe.
Yep, and we actually picked up. So we went to the the zoo's gift shop, and Zoe herself has one floppy ear. There was one stuffed giraffe that had a floppy ear out of all the ones that they had. And I was like, it's perfect.
Yep. So she got that, and she has access to a live camera when they have them turned on, so she can like peek in on her giraffe, make sure it's okay. And we only live about 38 minutes away from the zoo, so she can actually go and visit Zoe whenever she wants to.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
That rocks.
That is just the sweetest thing. Like,
it really is, man. And he came up with all this by himself. I was just the logistics guy. I was logistics and emails, and because he couldn't send anything from his account because she's got access to his email accounts and everything.
Yeah.
So like we really had to dig deep on this one.
sending
It
stuff
is.
to my school email.
Yeah, some stuff to that. Yep. Or there's some stuff that was Michelle's account, some stuff that was on my account.
Yeah.
We had to use only like payment cards attached to no possible email that could be traced back to Matt. Like we had the paper trail and everything just in case.
Yes, we did.
That is so cool. And that is so romantic. Oh my gosh.
It really was, man. He did good.
Thank you guys so much.
It was a pretty magical weekend though, that trip, because on Friday, like so, we went to the zoo. We went to Kings Island for a little bit afterwards. We just kind of hung out. Saturday we did that, and the Saturday he proposed was also Grandma's birthday. He was also in on the whole thing, but she couldn't go to the zoo, so we were able to pick her up afterwards and go out to make this big family like birthday / engagement dinner. They sang to both of them. Like the whole restaurant came and like, sang to both of them for their special days. The whole time was good. And then later that day, they wanted to play mini golf. So we went to a pirate-themed mini golf that was indoor, glow-in-the-dark. And we played laser tag and mini golf. And then the next day, they decided they hadn't had enough mini golf yet. So we found another outdoor mini golf. We found out that Brooklyn needs to play only indoor because she hurts less people when we're indoors than she does when we're outdoors.
And I need to not hit holes in one and slam my arm out.
Yeah, he hurt his arm at one point in time. Yeah, there were some incidents that happened at different times. Yeah.
Did you get the free play?
You don't do that. Most places don't do that anymore. Like all of us at least once got at least one hole in one between the two places, but most places don't because they don't monitor them like they used to. Most miniature golf holes. So many people lied about that in the 80s and 90s that now most places just don't even do that anymore.
They had it set up at the one that I went to in Fremont where it was kind of like a skee ball sort of thing to put in. And then the ball would drop into the office so they would know that somebody had won.
Okay. I've seen those before, but it's been a bit.
Heck yeah.
So then they'd come out and see who won the free play. So
nice. I know some of the places here would they would mark it at random secretly. And then when you brought in your scorecard, they just asked to look at your scorecard to check it out. And if you submitted your scorecard, they had like secret holes that if they saw a hole in one, they'd give you stuff. But I love the skee ball like one. Those are fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I was okay at that one. I always sucked at miniature golf otherwise. So.
I'm extremely good at it for some reason. For the most part,
My
I won the first
stuck
night.
Under the thing.
Of the 3 games we played, I won 2, and like Michelle beat me by a couple strokes on another one.
I mean, I'm the definition of average Joe at golf. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm terrible.
He will get a hole in one, and the next not 9 strokes, like on a par 3 miniature golf hole. Like it's wild. He's all over the place, but it's hilarious. But Brooke just always hits it as hard as she can, so the ball flies out at everyone, animals, people. It doesn't matter. Like she thinks she's Happy Gilmore all day, I guess.
We used to. When we lived on the acreage, we had a huge old apple tree in the front yard. And then outside of the fenced-in area, there was a big ditch. It was a divot that went up before the bluff. And we'd let the horse graze in there. We'd set up stuff. But when she wasn't in there, and you'd get hundreds of apples would fall off the tree. And these, we had good apples on other trees, but these were not very good apples. They were really mealy. So we didn't usually eat off of those, but we'd take golf clubs because the wasps would start swarming all over them.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to get stung by wasps picking them up. So we just take golf clubs and chip them up over into that ditch over there. But there's just 4 kids out there with 5 irons or something, just knocking all these flying rotten apples over the fence.
That's awesome.
Well, we didn't want to get stung by the wasps, but eventually cut it down and expanded the house a bit. So.
Oh, yeah. We also found out that me and Matt are a very good team at laser tag.
Yes.
Awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
I think I would injure myself.
I'm really good and also a real big asshole when it comes to playing laser. I'm the kind of person that will look for all the mirrors and reflective surfaces, and I will hit you and bounce my beam right off a laser and hit you right in the back. I'm an asshole about it. I don't know why. I'm that way. I've never shot a real gun in my life, man, but you give me fake guns and I'll fuck you up all day.
Me too, man. I learned it from Call of Duty.
Me and him would just look at each other and be we'd never practice hand signals. Suddenly him and I had 100 hand signals we were doing, and we somehow knew what they all meant. I don't know how, but we just knew what they all meant, and we just eradicated the girls.
Too many military movies.
There you go. I think now whenever we're angry, we're just going to go play, laser tag, and me and Matt will just feel better by shooting them both 2,000 times. It's good therapy. Shoot your family, shoot your friends.
The attendant was like, just be ruthless.
Yeah,
we were.
He did not care. It was 2-story. There were ramps, things to hide behind, special power-ups you could shoot to make the whole, it was all complicated to me. I was just shooting things. I didn't really care at that point. But it was nuts. It was only the 4 of us. There was no one else in the whole arena. It was just the 2 of us.
And I would have got more shots if I kept my hand on the barrel.
Yeah, because you think you're shooting and you shot someone, so you keep going. But if you don't actually have both hands on the barrel, none of it counts. So his score was actually probably a fourth of what it should have been because he kept forgetting to keep both hands on it. Our combined score was still way higher than theirs. So that's what matters. It's a team game.
Exactly.
So this week we have something that has not happened before going on with our campfire. Outlet Sari, Camp Outlet. Raz, go ahead and tell us what's up. And Jenny's going to be explaining some stuff too here.
Yeah, so we have a beloved supporter of the show, Martha, who has sent us in a story of her own by video. And that was something we've never done before, and it just seemed like such a special situation that we really wanted to do it. We really wanted to include it. It's super important to all of us that we get a chance to do these kind of things. And Jenny is going to walk us through exactly what the video is and who Martha is.
Martha's my amazing mother-in-law. She has been awesome since my dad died. One of the greatest supporters I have. And she wanted to share with us about her thoughts about the afterlife, some experiences she had with her husband and some residents from the nursing home. And one of them is very odd. It would, actually, that would scare me if that had happened to me when I was at any nursing home. So here is her story, and I hope you guys feel more enlightened after hearing it, because I think I learned things I didn't know from her as well.
All right.
Do we have to add it to stream?
Yep. I think that should
Okay.
do it.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Martha, Jenny's mother-in-law. I have spent 29 plus years working in long-term care. And nursing homes are haunted as all get out. I know, I worked there. I worked as a CNA and then for 29 plus years as a registered nurse. And when you first become a CNA and you are sitting on night shift at the nurse's station, looking down all of the halls, and you keep hearing this cart rolling down the hall, but you're looking down all 4 halls and there's no cart coming down the hall. And then you feel the vibration and hear the sound of it hitting the nurse's station, and there's nothing there that you can see. Needless to say, you don't sit at the nurse's station a lot after that. Some of the nursing homes I worked at in South Dakota, all of them have basements. And you have to take your laundry and your trash down to the basements. And walking across these huge basements at night, you just always felt like somebody was behind you. You were forever turning and looking because it was almost like you could feel them breathing. And I've always been able to feel things, but not so much see them. I've had a couple of instances where I've been able to see something but not the person. One instance was right after my husband passed away. He passed away on hospice at home, and the funeral home came and got him. And I shut the bedroom door and laid down on his side of the bed. And just about the time I got comfortable, the door opened. So I got up and I thought I didn't close it good. So I closed it good and jiggled it a little bit, and it had caught. And I laid back down on the bed and I got comfortable and the door popped open. So I got up one more time. I went to the door. I locked it after I closed it, made sure it caught, got back on the bed, and when it popped open the third time, I told my late husband, "Okay, Ben, I know you're here. I know you're okay, but I really need to unwind." Door didn't open after that. We were good. And then we moved to Navasota, and one night I was really, really missing him, to the point that I was in tears. I was missing him. And by now he had been gone 7 years. And all I could think of was if I could just, just see you one more time. And I had my feet up on the bed and I'm looking, and the edge of the bed goes down like somebody sat on it. And I felt so much better. And after about 5 minutes, it was like whoever it was stood up and walked away, because the edge of the bed came back up like they had stood up. And I really, to this day, I think that was as close as he could get to me being able to know he was there. I do feel him. I'll feel him every day till it's my time to go. Because we were just meant to be. And this is coming from a woman that was her 4th marriage, just saying. But it was like he was my partner. I finally had my till death do us part, and then he died. And, I was mad at him for a long time, because when he passed away, I was laying on the foot of the bed in our bedroom, and he was sitting in the recliner. And he hadn't spoken for several days. And he said, "Girl." And I looked at him like he had a third eye, because I hadn't heard him talk in 3 days. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You got to work tomorrow. Go lay down on the sofa for a little while so you can rest." And I said, "I'm okay." And he said, "No." He said, "Do this for me. Go rest on the sofa for a little while." And so I said, "Okay." So I went in the living room and I sat on the sofa and leaned my head back and I dozed off. And then all of a sudden, I sat straight up. And I knew he was gone. And I went in the bedroom and he was still warm, but he was gone. And throughout my years of nursing, I have explained to people who have had family members that were on hospice and they were passing away, and I told them, I said, there are times when your loved one wants you right there at the bedside till they go. I said, but there are cases where they don't want you to be there when they take their last breath. Well, for me, it did not really hit me. And so a little piece of me was upset with him for sending me out of the room, because I knew he was going and he didn't want me in there. And it hurt me. And then about a year and a half ago, which will be about 10 years after he passed, a resident I was taking care of, she kept lingering and lingering and lingering, and her family was there 24/7. And so her husband said, I told him, I said, you go on to the house and relax. I said, get some rest and I'll call you if anything changes. And they didn't even get in the house good. It wasn't 15 minutes after they left the room that she passed. And I was standing in the room when she took her last breath. And it hit me between the eyes like somebody throwing a rock at me. Ben did not want me to see him take his last breath and always wished that there had been one more. And that was the same thing with her. She didn't want the man that she had loved and been married to for 65 years to see her take that last breath and wish that he could see just one more. Just one more. And I explained that to him when he walked back in the door. I gave him a hug and I said I was standing there. And I told him what I saw and that it was very peaceful for her. And I told him, I said, her death helped me to understand why my husband did what he did. And I said, I thank you for that. I said, I thanked her for that. And I said, I've got her ready. You can go in there and see her. And when I tell you that I think that that was the hardest family I've ever dealt with, in respect to, he walked in that room, and this is during COVID time. He pulled his mask off, threw it across the room, and went and laid across her and just wept. There was not a dry eye between any of us in that room or on that hall. So people linger. I don't necessarily understand why some of them linger in the nursing home unless they were people that didn't have family members or people that had a grudge against their family, thinking y'all brought me here and left me, even though they were so far into their dementia that they didn't realize that they couldn't take care of them at home anymore. And so I don't know, because so many things are give you more questions than answers. But I do know that I don't believe that there's a nursing home that I've worked in all these years, whether it be as a nurse aide or as a nurse, that I've ever been in, that I haven't felt something Not in all the rooms, but there are some rooms in every nursing home you go in that you can feel something there. You know you're not by yourself. Even though there's nobody you can see in the room, you know that they're there. Somebody's there, you just don't know who it is. And I thank y'all for putting up with my rambling. Peace out.
There we go. That was awesome, man. I really liked that. I really appreciated that video. I know I've had some experiences in some situations where you can literally see the edge of the bed just go down when there's no one there, and it's even more noticeable like with my memory foam mattress. Like you get that feeling that something is near you, and then you just watch the depression of the memory foam. It looks like someone sitting down. You're like, oh, well, I guess I'm not alone right now, and that's like a very jarring moment, man.
That's exactly the kind of bed she had at that point because I bought it.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so much more noticeable and creepier because like a regular mattress, you think, oh, okay, that was weird. I think that just happened, but when you can see like the butt cheeks hit the, you know what I mean, hit the memory foam, and
Yeah,
the indention is there, but there's no one there. That's terrifying, man. It really is. So thank you so much, Martha, for sharing that with us.
Yes.
And we will have the actual file on the YouTube version later. We'll go back and I can when I do the individual stories, I know a lot of you like checking out. You'll see her version of it as her original video, so we'll be able to see that a little bit better. Because internet sucks in the world today. Let's be honest, internet just sucks lately for everybody.
Yeah, and that reminded me too of like when I spent 10 years taking care of my grandma and my papa, and the sad thing is when you have things like, they always talk about the broken hip and people kind of joke about it, but when you're that fragile, if you have a bone break, oftentimes you end up in the hospital for a little bit for it. Even if you do have people taking care of you at home, they have to hospitalize you for parts of it. And the problem isn't that you broke a bone. The problem is that you catch something when you're in a hospital that they're supposed to be sanitary and they try, but they're full of germs, and somebody will catch a pneumonia or something very easily because they have an compromised type of situation going on. And that's what happened with Grandma. She was on it, sharp as everything, and then ended up shattering a knee and an ankle, and it put her on a full lift status, and it was just really horrible. She was little. It was easy to pick her up, but it was starting to hurt, and they needed to get her in to get those taken care of. And she never came home. We went to visit her, obviously, all the time. But we had Papa around for another couple of years because he had dementia. It wasn't horrible. I feel really sorry for the people who, not sorry, I feel very bad for people who have to deal with the advanced stages of dementia. Papa just knew that he couldn't remember where he was, but he was okay with it. He could remember all things from his past. But he'd wake up in the morning and not know exactly where he was, but he'd know where the coffee maker was, and he'd know the dog's name, and he'd know who I was. So he was fine with things. And then the night that he passed, I'd been staying there, and I took just a trip home. My uncle gave me a ride back to my house so I could get some more clothes and stuff to spend the night because I needed to switch everything out. And he waited until I got dropped off and got back. And then about 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, he got up and went to the bathroom, came back. I walked him back. He gave me a fist bump, and we ended up losing him right after that. So, but like you were saying, some people linger, or she was saying, some people linger, and he waited for me, basically, to be there. So that was... It's so hard to go through, and I can understand why some people wouldn't want to, but I wouldn't have felt right if I hadn't been there for him in the end, if that makes sense to people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to see, but I think he knew, he waited so that I could be there I'd been there for the past 10 years constantly, so I had to be there for the end too.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, Jenny, before the show, you were mentioning that what made her like think about these stories was one that Mariah did with us, and like the very first campfire, the
yeah.
second campfire, I think it was the first one. It was right at the beginning.
First.
Yeah. Mariah had did a story, Echoes, where she had told about her loved one. She could still feel them there, or something would happen, and the memory would just fill her mind, and she could feel her there with them. And
Oh, yeah.
that had, I share these videos with my whole family, and of course I had to, as soon as Raz got it up, I had to share it to her because she wanted to hear all the ones that were like real life stories that were told, and that one definitely got her thinking. And she had been talking about what she'd wanted to say when her brother and sister-in-law came over. So finally I got her to sit down and actually record it yesterday, because she wanted to be part of today's episode, and I'm really grateful y'all didn't mind.
Oh, not at all. That was amazing,
That's
man. And now
awesome.
she's
It
gonna
was.
have her very own video on our YouTube now too. So
Yeah.
when you watch the other ones, you get to watch hers back too. That's
I
amazing.
love
And it's
that.
forever on my phone too, so that rocks. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I remember her saying on like when it came to her mom, she had also broke her hip, but she had broke it when she had went to the restroom because she was mobile until that day. And then she stood up, and then something went wrong, and then she couldn't come home because they didn't have the ability to take care of her with her sister, because she had wanted to stay with her sister. So she had to put her in a care facility close to where she was.
Yeah.
And at the end, her dad, Martha's dad, and her sister's dad, because her sister's her stepdad, both of them had come and just sat there and would talk with her. And she knew they were there. She couldn't tell who was on what side, but she knew, because she just like whispered to both of them back and forth up and at a certain point up until her final day. And that had been something that had made her happy. When she left, she went from them to the two men she loved most in her life. So that was, I think, one of the greatest love stories I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. That's
beautiful.
amazing. It's amazing. It's hard to follow these two stories, man. We have the engagement story, we have that beautiful story. Like, this is a hard act to follow today, man.
Yeah,
Who would
nothing
like to?
I have
Yeah.
is as good as those things.
I'm gonna give us a moment then, real quick. We're gonna jump out here for just a second, and it's time for the squirrel moment, kind of. But
Yes.
we're gonna have our
Yes.
Chewy moment of the day.
Yes, our Chewy moment of the day. Chew on
Chewy.
this.
If you aren't familiar with Chewy, the pet store galore that you can order everything online, we are affiliated with Chewy right now, and we are showing up. If you have stuff of your pets, if you have pictures of your pets doing things with Chewy items, please send them in, and we will showcase your pets on our shows.
Oh yeah.
Right now I'm working off of mine. I finally just got rid of like 15 Chewy boxes. Seriously, my house was decorated. It was like IKEA, only the pet version.
Yep.
My friend actually, Sam, our friend at the Haunt, actually works for Chewy, and he has confirmed what it sounded like to him was that you were recreating your own version of the Chewy warehouse, but at home.
Pretty much. Well, because the cat sees the box and it wants
He
to
does
sit on the
box line,
box.
so
And so you like stack the boxes, and she's like, I have a tower here. I have a comfy here. This one opens up. I can play with the paper. Oh my God. But so this past Halloween, in 2022, my mother's dog Peanut and my cat Hinata both dressed up in the same costumes that are from Chewy's. This is Hinata being a little skeleton self. And I hid the background on that because my floor was a mess. And then here's Peanut being her little self too, showing off her outfit.
they're both so punk rock with this, man.
They are. So those are our pet moments of the day from Chewy. Please,
amazing.
yes, send us, put it anywhere. Send us emails, tag us in Facebook, something like that. Send us send us your Chewy pets so that we can, and their name and everything about them. We'll tell stories about your pets on our show.
Oh, yeah.
As well. This isn't just for the old, this is for all of our shows. What was that?
owllightsociety@gmail.com is the email to send it all to. Please tell us your story and we'll be happy to share it.
Yes, and the pictures. We love pet pictures.
Yes, we
They
do.
give us great breaks so that we can hop in and be like, yeah, we aren't following the totally awesome stuff ever with some story that might not be.
Yeah.
Not at all.
We don't need
Those
a break
stories are
or a
just as
breather.
awesome, just on a different level.
I remember this one time in the old show Twisted Geekdom. We done a Halloween episode once, and it was my first attempt at like a live show with like some storytelling actually, like years ago. And one of my friends Nick came on. It was his turn to tell us the story. I shit you not, that motherfucker. And I knew immediately what he was doing. He was like maybe I think I caught it like 2 sentences in. He basically just took about 20 minutes to tell everyone the plot of the movie The Crow. And like Jason realized it really quick. I realized it, but there were like people in the audience going, "Oh my god, that's such an amazing story!" And a couple other guests going like hanging on his every word. And he got done. And he's like, "And that's called The Crow." And everybody else was like, "What the? Come on, man!" I almost did that to you guys like just now. That's why I'm telling the story instead of actually doing it to you.
Thank you for not doing that to us. It would make me sad.
Dude,
So
like my story, there was a prompt in like the cryptid groups. Would you rather have a monster that's higher than the treetops and the building tops? Or would you rather have the aliens come down and whatever aliens will do?
Lots of probing.
You guys have an answer for that?
I'd rather the giant monster because I'm going to die really quick. I'd rather die in one fell swoop than by 1 million probes. Just personally.
yeah, I'm with the monster.
Me too.
Yeah. You can only be probed so many times before it just gets old. Like you're not even getting a Happy Meal or anything. It's just it's just business.
You can hide easier from the monsters too, or make a deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes depends on what the monster is.
Yeah.
I remember that a couple of years ago that Siren Head thing came out, and it was this tall monster. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it became this huge fiasco on the internet because somebody made this picture of a tall being with a bunch of sirens sticking out from where its head is. And I thought, because I hadn't seen it, that people were talking about the like mermaid style of sirens. And I was like, well, that's just strange. And it was like, no, it's like emergency siren, speakers or what was sticking out of its head. But we are not trying to infringe upon that at all, because people got started writing stories about it and they were going over copyright infringement and people didn't know about it. And it's a tricky thing because,
it was like the Slenderman thing where it came from a picture, people kind of took off with it, then it's a creepypasta, and then it's really hard to hunt down a lot of those rights to a lot of those things. But if you ever see anything that starts like from a picture and you see the picture first, it actually belongs to the person that made the picture. And 9 times out of 10, the person that makes the picture doesn't even have a story with it. It's just a shocking, cool piece of art that they create. And then, writers get excited and we start to run with it, and we go, oh, wait. Okay, that's not actually ours. We can't publish this. Wait a second. But some people don't get that stop point, and they go ahead, and it's not malicious. It's just excitement.
There were even publishers that were paying people to write stories specifically, like authors that they knew did good monster stories. They were like, hey, write us a story about this. And people were like, okay, assuming that because it was a publishing company that they had acquired the rights.
Right.
And then finding out later, like, oh, no, and contacting the person. I'm sorry, I was told that this was on the up and up, and it wasn't. So.
Yeah. And that's the big thing we have to watch out for as writers, because we never know. Like, so you can never assume that any publishing company has fully done their due diligence if they're contacting you to write a specific story about something. You always got to follow it on your, not that you don't have to trust people, but you got to do your due diligence on your own time too. A lot of people learned a lot from that, though. And I don't think it's happened since then.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything in the news.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about happening like that on that level. There's been a lot of things since Siren Head that's come out. So like, I haven't heard about it in the other circles since then. Yep.
I love that. Sorry, guys. I'm just playing.
So, who would like to volunteer as tribute?
I will volunteer as tribute.
All right.
My sister and I love bats. So it's this.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, we love Batman too. Hence why I made you a Batman thing. I just gotta send it in the mail and then you get to see it. From fabric that's actually 28 years old, but that's neither here nor there. Yes, Batman fabric that's 28 years old. Why not? But we love bats. And then I'm like, what if it was from the prompt I was talking about, what if this actually happened here in Newton? But what if it was this giant bat-looking creature, but it couldn't fly? It had giant angular arms and the round angular head like a bat. It was in the same type of body structure, but it was different colors and it glow and whatever. This is the thought that came to my mind. And it went from us talking about it in a car ride to DeRidder, Louisiana, just for the hell of it, to my brain running with it. So I made this story. It comes in the night. I heard the sounds of something huge walking through the woods. We don't normally get anything this size coming through any of the trees surrounding us or our neighbors. I was glad I was the only one awake in the house when I looked outside. Until then, I was enjoying the peace and quiet of my three littles resting for new adventures tomorrow. I opened the blinds of my door to look out of the window, and I got the shock that this is not the adventure any of us ever wanted. It was taller than all the oak and pine trees around us, had long, skinny, angular limbs. Its face was rounded with an angular chin. It walked in a straight line forward like it had a purpose. It was gone in seconds. I walked to the couch and sat. I waited to hear if any more came through. It would crush any building or vehicle it went over. I needed to be awake so I could hear to get the kids out of the way. At 5 a.m., John woke me up. He guided me to the bed, and I just crawled in, being too exhausted to remember what happened last night. He got ready as usual, knowing nothing about last night. 1 second, scrolling down. The theme song from John's favorite hunting show started playing from my phone. He hadn't been gone long when he called me, freaking out about the creature that went through the neighbor's backyard last night. Honey bun, I asked groggily, did you see any of the videos of the thing that came through town last night? No, baby. I saw it walk through town last night. My brain crashed and I just sat down, I said, emotionless. Why didn't you wake me up? He asked astonishedly. Would you have believed me? I asked, knowing the answer. No, I would have told you you were having a nightmare. We are, but not one we can wake up from, I replied, with the only way to describe the situation. I love all my babies. Let's talk more after work, he said. We will always love you, I replied and hung up. Hold on. Okay. I walked down the hall and peeked in on the kids. They were still asleep. I decided not to even call the school. They could read between the lines if anyone did or didn't show up. I need to do some social media news search. I found my phone and its charger in my room. The laptop was on the side table in the living room. I took all of them and plugged them in by the table. I started some coffee with a dash of cinnamon, just like Mom used to make. I made some of the instant muffin batter pouches, the berry, just add milk version, and put them in the oven. With the timer set, I got the laptop booting up. I scrolled through the town page of the Book of Face on my phone. 2 houses were crushed. No survivors were found in the Slaughter's house. The Bishops had not come back from vacation yet. They were spared, according to the sheriff. He had spoken with a family member. They had relayed the message to one of the Bishops about their house. All I could find from the locals were pictures of the damage from our and the surrounding counties. All our government officials are as clueless as we are. Before I could start my start my search on the clock app, my sister called. I totally forgot about people outside of my house momentarily. At some point, I'll get better at reading. Hi, Sissy, I said. Oh, thank God you're alive, she said, relieved. I just saw the comments on Facebook. I was trying to process it through my groggy mind. I overslept. I told her as I got up to the timer on the stove. I didn't send Gage to school. I am too afraid of what may happen next, she said, crying. My plan is not to tell the children. We are going to play games, watch our favorite DVDs, and do crafts. If I can keep it from them, I am, I explained. Unfortunately, Gage found out before I did. I don't know if anywhere is safe. Her voice is still shaking from the fear. I just got started on my research. I will let you know if I find anything out. Okay, love you, Sissy, she said, crying. Love you too. Talk to you soon. I told her as we hung up, not entirely sure if it was the truth. I opened up Cap'n Hook's least favorite app. The first video opens on a crackling fire at night in the woods. We can hear the sounds of something huge walking. The trees cracked as they were forcefully brought down with each step. The camera pans to the sound and up to the treetops. The huge creature walks by in the moonlight. This one is glowing light blue. Its head straight forward. The noise is louder because it's so close. No walls, barely any trees between the poster and the creature. The video starts over after it walks out of sight. The next one filmed by someone standing on a walking bridge beside a large body of water. The camera pans to the streets and then up above the buildings. The creature is the same shape as the other two, but it was glowing bright green. It walked down the street, damaging the buildings as its limbs pushed off of them. The car's burglary alarms went off as they were stepped on. It was loud, the screams of people running to get out of the way of this more than 6 stories high thing. People were dodging the pieces of the building falling. It walked past the poster and straight into the water. Then the video started over when it was completely submerged. When I realized my laptop was fully ready, I turned on the browser and scrolled through all the news reports available. There was more carnage and videos of the creatures. No one knew anything. There were theories, such as they were from the base on the North Pole, or they were from the midnight zone of the ocean. Aliens was a big one as well. No true answers. The girls walked down the hall, confused to see why they were not got up for school. Dane ran as fast as a 4-year-old can and jumped in my lap. I shut my laptop. School was canceled due to a tornado coming through town. I lied without any remorse. Unless any of them came through during the daylight, I am not saying anything. Yay! Do I smell muffins? Carly asked. Yes. Will you set up the plates and I will make the chocolate milk I requested? Yes! Naomi's hand shot up in the air. Excitement as she shot up in the air in excitement as she walked over to grab the plates. We watched movies and played outside randomly. We had a contest who could draw the best sharks and zebras. It was the best day I could make for them. Just as we were getting back from Mickey D's, John got home. We set all 3 of them up on the kid table and the couch in the living room with their favorite mermaid movie. In the kitchen, as John and I ate, we talked. No one knows anything. He sounded frustrated and scared. If they do, they weren't saying on any of the outlets I have tried so far, I interjected unhelpfully. We agreed to try again tomorrow and finding anything new. We brought the mattresses in the living room. We fell asleep to the genie singing. By the time we heard it stomping, it was too late. The last thing I ever felt was the ceiling crushing me. And that's my first try at a kaiju story. What do you think?
Very nice. I like that, man. That was really cool.
Had myself muted. Very nice. Yes, I mute myself so you don't hear me smoking.
That happens.
It's easier to read other people's. I don't get tripped up on the words as much.
Oh, yeah. You did
Yeah,
fine.
well,
did
you
a good
catch
job.
yourself with everything that you're doing, and you second guess what you had before, and yeah. I also am reading tonight because I do not have the concentration after the past couple weeks to just off the cuff it. I had a good story. You guys will get it sometime soon. The Yellow House, however.
Ooh.
If it's all right, I'm
We
going
look forward
to jump right in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jump right on in there.
All right, this is something that I submitted for an anthology that it did not make it. It might make it in future editions of something, but see if you can guess where it's from first. It was initially designated to be part of a Universal Monsters anthology, and this is called The Thief.
Ooh.
Charles Whitcomb waited at the gates as the gates to his home opened in front of him, tall and solid, before driving up the lane as they closed behind him. His home was a fortress. It had monitored walls, cameras recording every bird that flew by, and stark gates mounted in 9 feet of solid rock that extended for 10 yards on either side of the massive iron bars, which required a password or several layers of granted permissions from someone in the house to enter. The lane ran for a quarter of a mile on basalt pavers and rounded before the home before reaching the 4-car garage. He was coming home from the end of a long work week and was eager to spend the weekend winding down with his wife, Beth, pampering him a bit, and keeping their 6-month-old son, Bobby, from interrupting his peace. He parked in the garage and entered the house through a side door that led him into a small foyer to leave his coat and shoes and open into the main living room. While he was removing his coat, Elizabeth came walking up to him from the living room. "Charles, welcome home. We have a visitor, an old friend of yours. I've invited him to dinner as he's made the trip all the way out here. Sebastian Fuller. He said he knows you from your college and internship days together." Her voice was slightly strained, indicating that she was flustered by the situation. "Sebastian? But he hasn't seen you for years now," exclaimed the visitor as he walked in upon the couple. He caught Charles up in a tight embrace and patted him on the back. "So good to finally get a chance to catch up again. It's been too long." Charles sucked in a deep breath as he half-heartedly returned the embrace and stared at the man before him. Sebastian was a tall and slender man with dark hair hanging down to his chin and deep green eyes. He looked almost as Charles remembered him from a decade before. He had never thought to see the man again after the last time they spoke, and his presence in his home had him unnerved. "Dinner's almost ready. Let's move to the dining room. I've already opened a bottle of wine while we were waiting for you. Sebastian has told me so many stories. He might need to defend your honor," said Elizabeth. Charles tensed for a moment before Sebastian filled in the gap with, "I've been telling her of your college exploits and some of the frat parties we attended. I'm afraid she was a bit put off by the kegger at Tri Delta when you did the naked jello slip and slide. You've become much more dignified since then." "Black cherry, wasn't it?" replied Charles with a cross between a grimace and a grin. "My arse was pink for weeks." As they crossed through the living room, Charles saw Robert in his activity center and crossed over to give him a kiss on the head. "Beth, isn't it about Bobby's bedtime? If you take him up to his room, I'll grab a glass of wine and take Sebastian to the dining room." "Oh, yes, I hadn't wanted to leave Sebastian alone to put him to bed. Let me take him up and we can have dinner soon." Picking Robert up, she disappeared through the hall up the stairs. "So, Beth, is it?" She introduced herself as Elizabeth. "What in the hell? How are you here? What are you doing in my home?" Charles choked out. "Now, that would be telling," said Sebastian. "I was quite surprised that your wife had never even heard of me. Am I truly that horrible of a person that you erased me from your life? I wasn't even worth an anecdote here or there from days long past? And what in the fuck would I have told her about you? About us?" "Well, the jello slide was a good story," smirked Sebastian. Charles bristled. Again, what in the fuck are you doing in my home? What in the fuck are you doing? Alive? I think that should be the first thing we addressed. Sebastian sat down in a chair in the living room and lifted his glass of wine. You always thought you were the smart one, didn't you? That I was along for the ride? Taking a languorous drink from his glass, Sebastian stared Charles down. Sit. Pour yourself a glass. Treat me with some form of hospitality, and we might just all make it out of here alive. You dare! Charles strode angrily across the living room at Sebastian. Oh, Charles, I dare. I'm alive. I'm in your house. I've met your wife and your child, and you will sit down, and we will have a nice meal together. And then, once all of the niceties are done, we will have the discussion that needs to be had after you send Elizabeth up to bed so that you can spend some time catching up with your old friend. Sebastian raised an eyebrow as Charles stopped halfway across the room. Now, sit down. Charles froze in place, his face a mask of fury, and slowly turned, walked to the head of the table, and poured himself a glass of wine, sat upon the chair, and glared at Sebastian. You have questions? I have answers. We will trade these once we've eaten and your lovely wife is up in bed with your little boy. I've come to judge you, Charles. There are a number of different ways that this evening may end, and all of them depend on the person that you are now. I do hope that in the past decade you have become a better man than you were before. So far, I see no difference. Prove to me that you're a good man in the next hour or so, and your life may continue to be good. Disappoint me, and you will wish that God judged you rather than I. It's all on you, Charles. Sebastian took another sip of his wine and looked up smiling as Elizabeth returned to the room. Welcome back. I hope young Robert is sleeping soundly. Elizabeth smiled at the mention of her son. Yes, he's a good baby. He should be sound asleep for 4 or 5 hours before he needs a change or a bottle. We've been lucky with him. Just give me a moment and I'll have dinner on the table. She excused herself from the room again. That's wonderful, and thank you. I hadn't meant to intrude into your meal, just to spend some time with Charles. You are an excellent hostess. Sebastian nodded towards Elizabeth. Dinner was roast beef with potatoes and vegetables, savory and simple, with a loaf of homemade bread that Sebastian flattered Elizabeth with to the point where she was blushing. Your culinary skills are truly marvelous. Did you go to school to train them? Oh, no. I always loved cooking, but I actually have my actuarial fellowship. Once I became pregnant with Robert, Charles insisted that I take a few years off to stay at home with him. I've been asked to start up from home again by my old mentor, but she glanced up at her husband. I think that I'm going to spend at least the first year just being a mother, for Robert's sake. Well, you certainly are quite the accomplished woman, Elizabeth. Charles must be quite proud of you. He raised an eyebrow towards his old friend. Yes, of course, she's truly brilliant, he burst out. But she's an even more amazing mother, and I wouldn't want to deprive Bobby of having her home with him while he's so young. We don't believe in nannies. We have a girl come up in a few days a week to help with the housekeeping as well, so that Beth isn't overwhelmed with the chores. A tight smile formed on his face. After seeing her with young Robert earlier, I can't say that you could have anyone better suited to raising him than your beautiful wife. He will certainly grow up knowing love while he has her in his life. He turned to address Elizabeth. It is a commendable sacrifice that you're making. I can't imagine Charles trying to be a stay-at-home father. It would be a disaster of truly epic proportions. Pizza delivery nightly and poor Robert's first words would certainly not be something to post on Facebook, Sebastian chuckled. Elizabeth giggled a bit along with him and blushed again. Upon seeing Charles's glower, however, she coughed slightly and replied with her head bowed, I'm sure it wouldn't be that terrible. You must remember, it's been quite a while since you've known him. Indeed. Forgive me, I still remember our collegiate days. So much has changed for the both of us. Charles glanced around the table and then looked at his wife. Beth, I think we're all done with dinner. How about you leave the washing up for Anna tomorrow and go on up to bed? It's been so long, I'd like to have a few drinks with Bass tonight. Get a chance to catch up. Certainly, dear, she nodded at Charles. It was a pleasure to meet you, Sebastian. The pleasure was all mine, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for your hospitality. Sleep well. Sebastian gave a half bow from his seat towards her. Come, join me in my study, Bass, said Charles as he stood up from the table and walked out of the room, acknowledging his wife's departure with a brief nod. His visitor followed him into the study and sat himself upon a love seat while Charles strode angrily to the drinks cabinet, and began pouring himself a large dram of cognac. Still a bourbon man? Sebastian nodded. Some things never change, including a need to diminutize everyone you know. A Charles, Charlie, Chaz, Chuck. The K made its own syllable as it staccatically hit the back of his tongue. Chucky, Chuckles, shall I continue? Sebastian sneered at his host as he handed him his drink. I may not have always respected you, but I at least used your name. Is it really that difficult for you? You have a long bullshit. You've stripped your name of you've stripped your family of their names as well. Do you really want to raise a Bobby? Surely you want a Robert to follow in your footsteps, even if he's raised by a housewife named Beth? You have to take something from everyone, even your wife and child, don't you? Sebastian sneered at Charles. It's a pet name. People in relationships have them, Charles growled. Ah, so she doesn't call you Charles? The host's cheeks flushed crimson. You're being ridiculous. Am I, Chuck? Am I really? You marry a beautiful, brilliant woman who is now an incubator and homemaker rather than an actuary. A woman who you don't even call by the name she introduces herself by. A woman who nearly flinches from your gaze when someone else treats her with proper respect in front of you, and I'm being ridiculous? For Christ's sake, what have you done to break her spirit? I've never laid a hand on her. That you mentioned that first makes me wonder. Perhaps you've never hit the woman, but I would bet that your hand has been raised to her more than once, and certainly your voice has been a lot more than that. You weren't one to shy from violence in the past, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that perhaps you refined your technique since we last saw each other. Yes, we've been through this. I dare do anything, say anything that I want at this point. You're the one on trial here, not I. Now, before we get into this discussion, though dinner was quite probably delicious, based upon how wonderful it smelled, I would really like to enjoy this bourbon. A moment, please. Sebastian set down his glass, reached into his mouth, and removed what seemed to be his teeth, then slowly pulled forth a long, wet pink flap of what looked like skin, wrapping it in a handkerchief from his pocket. Latex and liners, you know. Movie makeup is quite helpful for those with my condition. His tongue had vanished once he had finished, and then he took a deep drink from his glass. Basil Hayden, quite nice. Charles sat frozen for a moment. He looked both fascinated and disgusted at what he had just witnessed from his guest. Now, Chuck. He kept emphasizing the staccato K as he spoke. Elizabeth was telling me that you're working in R&D now for Skinner Tech. Still working in optical refraction? How are you? Oh, just stop. I believe it's time that you realize that you aren't the only one who understood what we were doing back then. Yes, I provided the money, and you thought yourself the brains behind the project. Wake up, Chuck. You've always been so blind, so incredibly fucking blind to the fact that anyone could possibly be as smart as or possibly smarter than you, Sebastian snarled. Never build a prison you can't escape. Did you honestly think that you had full control of the lab? You didn't even know the full extent of the lab. I let you have all the securities and protocols that you wanted. But did you think I wouldn't have my own overrides? You saw what happened, though. The process was flawed. The earlier subjects were going insane. I couldn't risk you being allowed out in the world as you were, Charles stammered out. Of course they were going insane. They were creatures who were suddenly invisible, well, mostly, and blind. We didn't understand what they were. The process drove them mad. You saw that. You saw what it did to Old Man Marvel, too. No, it was the result, not the process. Though the process was flawed, I'll give you that. I've improved it since then. It's still flawed, though not in the way it was. Sebastian rolled up his sleeves and pulled what appeared to be the skin of his hands off, discarding it onto the love seat, leaving nothing in its place. You see, Chuck, invisibility isn't hard, at least not for a body. He pulled the wig he was wearing off his head and tossed it near the coverings from his hands as he began to pull the latex off that covered his face. I still haven't quite worked out the eyes without using full sclera contact lenses in order to see, but the rest was finished about a year after you left me for dead. His face and neck lay on the love seat, brilliant, fake green eyes staring out from above his shirt. What the fuck? How? Charles was both terrified and curious about the man slowly disappearing in front of him piece by piece. For now, You don't get to know. You abandoned our research. You abandoned me. You abandoned us. You tried to put us down just like you did all the rats and the dogs. Lawrence was on the edge already, and you were successful in killing him as well, if that makes you feel any better. But I'm still here. There are others too. It was supposed to be you, but you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't give up any piece of yourself. You're able to take my sacrifice for a work, but I don't think you ever really intended to give up anything of yourself. Not now that I look back. You aren't a giver, Chuck. You're a taker, a thief. I found others, though. Don't worry, no one who didn't understand completely what they would be giving. Did you know that there are some people who would give up everything just not to be stared at? To them, it's a relief. There are a few of them in your home right now, actually. Wait, why? What is this all about? Charles yelled. It's about what you can do to redeem yourself in my eyes. Perhaps you can help find a way to reverse it. Being invisible isn't all it was cracked up to be back in the day. It's only useful if you're naked, so that's something I think you might be able to help us with. There's this little problem of giving off a heat signature. If you wanted to try and use our breakthrough for any sort of espionage, this is where it's your time to shine. You're working on metamaterials, yes? Yes, we've been working on metamaterials. I can't say we've gotten very far. Every new success offers up its own new obstacles as, well, you should understand. Yes, quite. I've been keeping up in the field myself. A functioning invisibility fabric would be quite the achievement, wouldn't it? I dare say I would kill for one. How close are you, do you think? The eyes hovering above Sebastian's shirt tilted slightly to the side. I'm not sure, but probably quite a while still for anything of substantial size that wouldn't weigh too much to be feasibly worn. And how much faster do you think you could accomplish something if you're more driven? What about the heat signature? Got any friends in the quantum camouflage field? Sebastian tossed back the rest of his bourbon, kicked off his shoes, and began toeing off his socks, leaving an empty man-shaped suit with eerie, floating eyes staring straight at his host. There have been some advancements in quantum camouflage, but it's still in its infancy. Look, I don't know how you survived, but you're stuck, aren't you? You need me for this, don't you? Charles leaned back and gave a slight smirk. No, Chuck, you need you for this. As for how I survived your lockdown and emergency protocol, I had someone in a room that wasn't on your blueprints, watching you the entire time and letting you think that everything went off without a hitch. She's currently sitting in your son's nursery. Hannah, nice girl. You might remember her. She was in a bad accident, lots of scar tissue. She's much happier now. A pack of cigarettes and a lighter were pulled by seemingly nothing from Sebastian's trouser pocket. A single cigarette removed and placed where his mouth must have been and lit. After a long drag and an exhalation, he continued, No, you need this because I finally decided that it's your turn to lose something. Your turn to sacrifice. What do you mean? Chuck, don't even try to pretend that you haven't used some of our research for the projects you're working on now. I'm fucking rich, remember? And I was never stupid, just good at acting slightly less intelligent than you. I have access to everything you've been working on over the years. The folks at Skinner realize that the work you've been pulling out of your ass isn't truly your own? Have you shared any of the credit with Lawrence or me? You might be improving on some parts, but it was all stolen work. It wasn't even our work, really, not for the first year. Lawrence got the original work from some relative or other of his who had no idea what it was. It seems that back in the day, one of his family members stole it as well. It's rather poetic, really. A thief steals the secrets to invisibility and cannot use them, and they end up in the hands of a thief who does. I want you back in the game with a real stake in it. Honestly, you aren't the best out there. Hell, regardless of what you're able to come up with, I'll probably be bringing some of them on board, but I want you to finally put yourself into our work as fully as I have. I want you to make it as real for you as it is for me. The cherry of the cigarette flared up and a long stream of smoke was inhaled. So what then? You're just going to force me into this? What do you think I can accomplish in a lab if I'm invisible? I've achieved more since my transformation than you have, at least in the field of biological invisibility. You could have been brilliant, but you weren't willing to risk anything to continue where you were going. I wouldn't have even needed you to go through it yourself. I just needed you to stay with me. Believe in what we were doing, to not freak the fuck out and cut and run and fucking try to kill me. Another long drag off the cigarette before the butt was flipped into the fireplace. The suit moved towards the drinks cabinet with the glass apparently in hand and the bottle of bourbon opened and poured itself to refill it. You did me a bit of a favor by killing me, actually. I was able to rise from the ashes as a new man, my own long-lost nephew who inherited all of Sebastian Fuller's estate. I have a clean slate. I have a lab. I still have the funds. The glass began to drain itself and was set upon the coffee table as Sebastian removed his shirt and tie, leaving behind just a pair of trousers sitting on the love seat. Actually, I still have the second lab from 10 years ago as well. That was another thing you didn't know about. You did your best to destroy everything we created together with Lawrence. But you had no idea that there was an exact replica of every note, every chemical, every piece of equipment we used sitting a few hundred miles away in another underground lab. You thought to steal all of our progress, but I realized I couldn't trust you, particularly after Hannah. Did you know she actually thought that you loved her? All it took was one look at her after the accident, and you walked out on her. You stole her heart first, then you stole her dignity. You are truly a foul man. I couldn't have stayed with her. Would you have rather I'd pretended when I couldn't bear to look at her? Charles snapped. No, but you could have been decent to her. You never even sent her flowers, for Christ's sake. I doubt you knew when she left the hospital. Sebastian chuckled. She came straight to the lab after that. We converted some of the cells in the sub-basement into a place she could stay. She spent most of her time in the monitoring station I had built down there. She's the reason I'm still alive. She couldn't just stand to watch you steal my life as well. Charles finished his brandy and poured himself another. You are one paranoid bastard. You know that? But Chuck, I am one alive paranoid bastard. So you can't blame me. Although your attendance at my funeral was quite touching. The empty casket was a nice touch. The bourbon glass was raised and nearly emptied again when the trousers stood up and were removed. I'm so glad you have a fire going. It gets quite chilly like this. I should thank Elizabeth for that, I suppose. There was now nothing left visible of Sebastian but his eyes. I think we've gotten most of the pleasantries and perhaps some of the unpleasantries as well out of the way now. It's time to see what type of man you are now, Chuck. Are you still a bastard? What do you value the most? What can I take from you? I thought that you wanted me to come help you. Isn't that enough? No, I said I wanted you to truly have a stake in it this time. Not your name, not your reputation. Something to keep you from doing what you did last time and running off with all of the breakthroughs we've achieved and leaving us to burn. I'm going to offer you a deal. You get a choice. Yourself, your wife, or your son. One of you will be joining me in my condition to light a bit of spark under your ass, as they say. Green eyes meandered around the room. A hovering, nearly empty glass of bourbon kept up with them. There's no way that's going to happen. I can still see you, enough to end you. Charles jumped up from his seat and snatched a poker from the fireplace. Sebastian chuckled again. Good show! But what about young Robert and the lovely Elizabeth? I told you, I have people in your house. Take a swing at me and you'll never see them again. At least, not entirely in any case. The glass of bourbon was finished and floated over to slam into the table. The fire poker was suddenly wrenched from Charles' hand and swung in low to hit him in his knees. Sit down. Do not test me again. The poker flew across the room and landed on the floor. Charles cried out and was wincing over his knee. He sat back down in his chair gingerly. Okay, I'm sitting. Now what? Now? As I said, you decide which of the three people who live in this house is going to become invisible. Which one will motivate you into assisting us to break the scientific barriers we need to cross? Will it be you, your wife, or your son? Perhaps we'll even find a cure if we try hard enough. You've already reduced your wife to a shadow. Perhaps I should remove her from the equation. Monster! You would fucking hell, Chuck, no! I meant that she would no longer be a choice. Not that I would lay a finger on her. You're the killer, Chuck. Not me. Now stop dilly-dallying. I've made this much easier for you. Are you going to join me in this venture to help yourself? Or will Daddy be trying to help his little boy to become one of the greatest achievements in science? The light from the fire glowed eerily off of Sebastian's contacts as he stared down at Charles. His face had long since gone scarlet in anger, and his fists were balled up so tightly they were white. He seemed to bounce between fury and fear as he stared up those two floating eyes that were all he could see of Sebastian. It's going to have to be Robert. As an infant, he'll adjust much easier. Perhaps something with hormone changes as he grows up will help counter the effects, he stammered. Well, fuck, Chuck. You're just as much of a bastard as you always have been. That's quite the achievement. You're going to feel a little prick, and then a needle materialized from behind the chair Charles had been sitting in, rising from the back to the side where it jabbed him in the neck, causing him to almost instantly collapse. Charles awoke, strapped down to a gurney of some sort. He was in a bare room with white walls and white lights. A hammer seemed to be trying to do its best to beat its way out of his skull, and he was parched. He tried shouting for help for a few minutes, and then the door opened up. A pair of green eyes looked down at him. It was nearly absurd seeing those strange eyes coupled with jeans and a t-shirt. Finally awake then? Wonderful. In case you were wondering, you decided to run into town with me for a drink a couple of nights ago and died in a car accident. You texted Elizabeth about it. The car caught on fire and there wasn't much left. I'd gone a bit ahead of you to change clothes back at the hotel. When I heard what happened, I immediately rushed to see if there's anything I could do. I think he'll be quite fine, though. She's a strong woman. She'll do well. Your funeral is tomorrow. They're going to live stream it. Isn't that incredible? I had to attend my own. I chose Bobby, though. I chose him. Yes, you did. Like the utter bastard that you are. That was part of your judgment. I'd really hoped you would just sign on yourself. You're going to be put through the process. You're going to try and find a way to fix it or to enhance it. And because you would rather sacrifice your son, you are going to be kept in the lab, locked in rooms you will never escape from. You will have your contacts removed when you are not working. You will have a straitjacket for when you are alone, just a precaution in case you go mad, and you will never see your family again. Personally, I think you'll miss your freedom more, but there's always a chance you'll change. Shoulders of the t-shirt shrugged. Hannah will be in a little bit to give you something to eat, some water, change your IV, all of that nonsense. Try to get a good night's sleep. After your funeral, we begin the process. Sebastian turned around, and the jeans and t-shirt walked out of the door, which closed behind him, followed by the tumbling sound of locks and the beep of a card reader. Charles Whitcomb laid in his bed, hidden from the world in a fortress. He was weak and shaking in his bed. Tears rolled slowly down his cheeks as he contemplated his future. After a few minutes, he started to scream. And that is the end of The Thief.
Nice. I really like that one. I've obviously read it before, but yeah. I'm so bummed that didn't hit the anthology, man. I've gone back and I've read the anthology, and it's great. There was so many great stories in it, but it could have used your story, man.
Thank you. I
definitely deserve to be part of something.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I love the passion that you had behind it too. It was amazing.
Fuck, Chuck.
I was trying to be Brad there. I wanted Sebastian to be all like Brad Dourif as Dante in Death Machine. It's like, yeah. Got to get my boy included somehow.
At least until the van kidnapping happens.
Yes, that will be lovely. We love that. Nobody tell. Okay, shh. Everybody watching right now.
That should be the first horror con that Elliott officially goes to next year. Is something that has Brad Dourif there.
That would be awesome.
Then you'll just be there, so we don't even need to do like the whole kidnapping and then bringing him to you. You'll just be there,
Just handcuff myself to him real quick and be like, yeah.
I mean, people do it with trees.
He's more than a tree, Raz. He is more than a tree. So, I think it's Razzle Dazzle's time.
All right. I'm actually doing a reading today too, because I never, ever do a reading, and I was planning this beforehand. I was thinking about it beforehand. I hadn't officially decided. But I just felt like the night of the reading sounded like a lot of fun. So I want to give you guys two choices. One of my favorite stories that I've ever written was a recent story, and I can't read that one because that's going to be out in an anthology soon. But my previous two favorite stories, you guys can choose which I'm going to read. Is either Mr. Jones and Me or Jimmy's Toys. I don't know why they're my previous favorites.
I'm going for Mr. Jones.
Oh, Mr. Jones. All right. That's the slightly longer of the two, but it's still not that long. All right. I don't think I've ever read this one out loud, like ever. It also just so happens it was included in the recent Riverside Chronicles anthology I released. Well, not anthology, I guess collection that I released recently. All right. I suppose I grew up in much the same way most kids do, but with one major difference. We'll get to that a little later. I was an only child raised by a single mom, never really knew who my father was, and mom really didn't talk about it. Felt kind of weird asking too many questions. She always did the best she could for me, and mostly I had it pretty good. She'd see me off to school every morning before heading into work, and after school, I'd spend my time at my best friend's house down the street until she came and got me. My best friend's name was Ryan, and together we went on so many adventures. Our parents said we had the most overactive imaginations they'd ever seen, and often scoffed at all our crazy stories. We spent most of our time playing out in the woods at our secret tree fort we built years ago. It was our haven, our home away from home. It was a Friday after school that Ryan came up with the greatest idea I'd ever heard. He wanted to camp out at our fort overnight. We lived in a small town where nothing bad ever really happened. It was one of those places where everybody knew each other. People looked out for one another back then, and half the time no one even bothered locking their doors. We ran the idea by our parents, and to our profound excitement, we got the green light. We spent the next hour grabbing everything we were going to need to stay the night at our fort, which included a decent haul of snacks, everything you can possibly imagine, but mostly things we pilfered from our collective kitchens and parents' garages. It turned out to be a beautiful night. We'd never been able to stay so late at the fort before, and it was so exciting. We started it off with the customary ghost stories told by flashlight. Once we got ourselves all good and worked up, we decided it was time to do some exploring. It was the moment we had been most looking forward to. The woods were more alive at night somehow, as if powered by some magical force that our minds had conjured up. We left the safety of our fort and slipped into the growing darkness between the trees. Every sound had us on edge, our flashlights dancing around like an epilepsy-induced light show. And that one's for you, Dal. That didn't stop us, though, and we continued until we hit some unfamiliar territory. We'd never gone this far before during the day, and weren't sure really what to expect at night. We stopped when we came across a small ramshackle of a cottage just sitting there amidst the overgrowth. We did what every curious I cannot talk today, oh my god. We did what every curious kid would do in that situation. Get inside. It was easy enough with no lock to speak of. The door creaked and moaned as we forced it open. Our flashlights swept from left to right, illuminating the meager furnishings within. It was just one giant room with a bed against a far wall and a rocking chair with a small table and an oil-burning lamp in the middle. There was even an old wood-burning stove in the far left corner that looked in decent working shape. The entire shack seemed eerily clean for a place that looked so abandoned from the outside. I suddenly felt very nervous and glanced over at Ryan for some support. "Who do you think lives here?" I asked with some trepidation. I wasn't really sure I wanted to know the answer. He cast a side glance at me, and I saw that the same anxiety stretch over his darkening features. He forced a reply, trying to be brave. "I can't imagine anyone could live out here. It's probably just one of those hunting shacks." I nodded and convinced myself that had to be right. When you're a kid, it's so easy to dismiss danger sometimes, even when you shouldn't. We claimed the place for ourselves after a little more conversation. We thought it would be a much better place to stay the night, and not that much further out than our own fort was. It was as if our parents were going to know the difference anyway. The worst thing that could happen would be some hunter would show up and shoo us away. No harm, no foul. Our excitement grew by leaps and bounds as we made the round trip to get our stuff from the fort and head back to the shack. Our explorations had provided us with the ultimate find, and we were getting a little tired. We stretched our sleeping bags out on the big bed. It seemed so comfortable. We had some snacks and told a few more stories, but eventually we fell asleep. I had to have been in the middle of the night when some strange noise woke me up. It sounded like someone was clearing their throat, so the first thing I did was look over at Ryan. Finding him still asleep, I turned on my flashlight and shined it around the room. I heard that throat clearing noise again. But this time, a voice followed it, much closer than I expected. Its tones were strangely soothing as it spoke. "Hey, kid. Down here." In that moment, I did the dumbest thing I've ever done in my entire fucking life. I looked down. Laying there on the floor, half under the bed, was the most terrifying sight I'd ever seen. From what I could see of it, the thing that spoke was about a quarter of my size. It It had long, spindly fingers that idly rubbed against the edge of the bed. Its mottled gray skin sort of hung from a thin, lanky frame. Enormous, razor-edged teeth filled its sickeningly sweet smile. Its eyes a strange, pale yellow. And it smelled of dirty lake water and rotten eggs. Before I could even so much as scream, it held one of those impossibly long fingers to its mouth to shush me. And for some reason I can't explain, I obliged. We sat there in silence, just staring at each other for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, it broke the silence. So, tell me, Aaron, what brings you and your little friend to my home? It's a little rude, I must say. How would you like it if I broke into your home, hmm? Oh, God, how did it know my name? I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just laid there, unable to look away from it. It sensed the fear that must have been radiating off me in waves. It spoke again. I can see you are not a little boy of many words, Aaron. So how about I do all the talking? With wide eyes, I forced myself to nod. We were going to die here. I knew it. I envied Ryan more than anything at that moment. He'd never have to see the thing that would end us. The creature continued, as if we were having a pleasant conversation. That, more than anything, I think, was what inevitably made me piss myself. Good, good. So, here's what's going to happen, Aaron. You're going to let your little friend Ryan sleep. Don't bother waking him up. It won't make a difference. As long as you stay right where you are, you have nothing to fear from me. If you step 1 foot off that bed tonight, however, I'm going to drag you under here and eat you. Does that sound fair? It seems fair to me. Again, I could only nod as I stared at him. What I didn't understand was the game we were playing. It could have yanked me right out of the bed and eaten me any time it wanted to, yet here it was, offering some strange reprieve. I kept the flashlight on and scooted a little closer to Ryan. It spoke one last time before sliding itself back under the bed. Sweet dreams, Aaron. As if I was ever going to sleep again. The only upside of having pissed myself was having a now empty bladder, further ensuring my need to never leave the bed again. I lay there like that all night, staring at that spot on the floor where the monster had been. Sometime later, light crept its way through the cracks in the shack, and Ryan finally woke up. I did my best to pack up and carry things in such a way as to hide my late night urination. I really didn't feel like talking about what happened until we were at least back home. Ryan was still so excited and droning on and on about the shack and what a great night he had and what a great find it was. I didn't want to ruin it for him, so I just nodded and agreed at all the appropriate times. Even though I knew he was my best friend and that he would surely believe me, I was having trouble believing myself. Maybe it had just been a weird, I don't know, a horrible nightmare. It was more than possible, and I just kind of chalked it up to that. It was a weird night in a strange place. Bad dreams happen in even safe environments, right? Once we were back in the relative safety of Ryan's house, I quickly changed my clothes and stuffed the wet ones in a plastic bag that had held snacks the night before. I was feeling calmer now and told Ryan about the horrible nightmare I had had, blowing it off at this point. He listened in rapt attention, and when I was done, he took a deep breath before talking. That sounds scary as hell, Aaron. Good thing it was only a nightmare, huh? I quickly agreed with him, and we made plans for him to spend the night at my house. Mom had the rest of the weekend off and agreed to it, and I think Ryan's parents were just glad to have a little break. Mom came and she picked us up. The first thing we did was take turns having a shower to wash off the stink of the woods that was still clinging to our clothes and hair. Feeling clean after the night before was the best feeling in the entire world. It's not that I forgot about the dream or anything. I was just so busy having fun with Ryan that I guess somewhere along the line I decided not to dwell on it. We sat around playing my Nintendo, and Contra was the game of our day. All cheat coded up. Yeah, I still have that cheat code memorized even after all these years. Anyway, eventually, night rolled back around. Ryan and I conned my mom into letting us hook up the VCR in my room so we could watch some scary movies. She turned in earlier and left us to our own devices, which suited us just fine. We made some popcorn, grabbed some Pop-Tarts and soda, and geared up for a marathon. We planned to stay up till dawn, watching all the classics. It was going to be the significant achievement of our young lives. I think we both ended up passing out around 2 in the morning, but it was still the longest we'd ever made it. I remember being woken up by a strangely familiar sound. One I had not expected, even though perhaps I should have. Someone or something was clearing its throat. The voice drifted up from the floor somewhere. But this time, I didn't look. I didn't even so much as turn on the light or make a single noise. Instead, I just pretended to be asleep. I thought that if I just kept my eyes closed, it would go away. I should have known better. That voice drifted up to me with its far too relaxed and chilling tones. I know you're awake, Aaron. So, this is what your house looks like. It's bigger than I expected. There's so much room under here. I bet if I tried, I could fit you both down here so easily. I shuddered and bit my lip hard enough to draw blood. Gently, I laid a hand on Ryan to wake him up. I'd be damned if I was going to go through this alone ever again. His eyes drifted open lazily, and put a finger to my lips and pointed to the floor. His eyes went wide, and he nodded ever so slightly. This was not lost on the monster underneath my bed. It spoke once again. Ah, Ryan, welcome to the party. Let me fill you in on the rules. You leave the bed, I eat you. Shouldn't have had all those sodas, boys. It's gonna be a long night. We lay there in silence after that, neither of us able to sleep. There's no way we were both having the same dream. It had to be real. Why did we go into that fucking shack? This is a question I still ask myself every single day. The monster said goodnight, eventually, but we knew he'd still be there till morning. My mom came in to wake us up and found us both shaking and pale. We tried to tell her what had happened, but of course she blamed the movies we'd watched the night before, even though we scarcely watched them. The more we insisted our monster was real, the angrier she got. Eventually, it led to scary things being banned in the house for a while. That was fine with me, though. I'd had my fill at that point. And since we had school the next day and Ryan hadn't finished his homework yet, Mom and I took him home. We gave each other a knowing glance before we parted ways. That night, I laid every booby trap under that fucking bed that I could think of. There were tripwires made from fishing string from my dad's garage attached to the bells on my old bike. There were Legos sprinkled all around the borders. I even stuffed my toy chest and all sorts of things under there to make sure the monster had no room to hide. I assumed Ryan had done the same thing, or at least I hoped he did. Seeing him the next day at school was a relief. Apparently neither of us had gotten a visit, so that was something. As usual, we went to his house after school, but took a break from the fort for a while. Neither of us wanted to be any closer to that shack than we needed to be. Before Mom came to pick me up, Ryan's mom got a call from a relative. Apparently, her grandmother was dying, and Dad rushed to Florida to be with her. That meant I'd probably have a babysitter after school till they came back. Before bed that night, I checked my traps, deciding everything was all set. As I crawled into bed, and after hours of staring at the ceiling, I finally fell asleep. That night, I woke up to the sound of that old bike bell going off and something moving under the bed. Shortly after, I heard, and then the voice. Is this how you treat all your guests, Aaron? What a rude child you are indeed. How about we call a truce? Perhaps you and I got off on the wrong foot after all. I sure could use some company, you know, Aaron. It gets lonely living under people's beds, you know. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd seen that movie Little Monsters, and even though I secretly wished for my very own Maurice, the reality of it was far too frightening to consider. This time, I spoke to it directly. So, why do you hide under people's beds? The creature chuckled gently. It's sort of my job. I'm a monster, you must realize. Would you like to play a new game, Aaron? What sort of game? I replied. He was quick to answer. Any game you want, of course. I see you have an electronic battleship under here. I stopped to really consider what was going on. Was it possible this was a friendly monster? Until a few days ago, I hadn't really thought monsters existed at all. And hadn't he wanted to eat us? Something about this seemed too good to be true. Its voice was so soothing. And if not for its appearance, I might have left the bed. So, no game then? I shook my head a bit and looked into his fiendish eyes. He responded soon after. A pity, but I understand. We barely know each other. In fact, you don't even know my name. Silly me. You, my boy, may call me Mr. Jones. We kept up the conversation most of the night. We talked about comics and movies and food and pretty much all the stuff the kids my age were interested in. This happened every night that Ryan was gone, which is pretty much for the rest of the week. Every night the monster would ask to play a game and try to get me off the bed, and every night I'd decline and we'd talk instead. On the last night, though, things got admittedly stranger, if that was even possible. I cleared a space for it and sat patiently waiting for his return. As always, the sound of a clearing throat signaled me to its arrival. Good to see you, Aaron, it said. Evening, Mr. Jones. Did you have a good day? Mr. Jones shook his head. No, Aaron, I did not. I'm starving, you see. I haven't eaten in, about a week. Come play a game with me, why don't you? Help me get my mind off the hunger. This time, when I refused, it got angry. Enough of the bullshit, you little brat. I'm gonna eat you and your little friend, no matter how long it takes. I'm gonna pick the flesh from your tiny little bones and suck out the marrow. I'm gonna start with your eyes, though. That's the most delicious part. There'll be nothing left of you, Aaron. Nothing left at all. The bedspread and sheet moved as if it were tugging them. Eventually, it slid off into the floor and disappeared beneath the bed. Then all of a sudden, everything just stopped. For a moment, I could swear I heard someone crying and screaming. It sounded so eerily familiar to me somehow. I lay there awake for hours longer with nothing to show for it, before eventually I fell asleep, huddled in the centermost part of my bed. The light slipped into the windows of my room, but it was the crying and loud voices I heard coming from the living room that woke me up. I crept out of bed and cupped my ear against the door to hear what was going on. With everything I'd been dealing with, I was not prepared for what I heard. Ryan and his family had come back late the night before, but when they woke up in the morning, he was gone. The only trace of him had been a streak of blood that stretched across his floor and disappeared beneath his bed. It was at that moment that I knew the screams I'd heard the night before had been his. They organized many people to search the neighborhood and surrounding woods, but I knew exactly what had happened to him. I even tried to tell people, but no one would believe me. I told them about the shack, though. No one believed that either. His family moved away a few months later, and I assumed to escape the constant reminder of their son's disappearance. I myself moved on with my life as best I could. I grew up and left town as soon as possible. I never really settled down and had kids, though. I always preferred to be alone more than anything. You know, the older I've gotten, the harder it's been to make connections with people. I barely even have any friends, maybe the people I work with. And as I sit here telling you this, I can't help but miss my best friend. Even after all these years, the memories of it seem so fresh. I know that any time now I'll hear what I've been waiting for. But tonight will be different. I can't keep going on like this. No, tonight it ends. I can hear him even now, moving. Under my bed, I heard him clear his throat. Now he's begging me to come out. I can even hear the sounds of Ryan screaming and begging to be let free from who knows where. And I can see those long, spindly fingers rising over the edge as he starts to pull on the bedspread and the sheets. And now I can see his yellow eyes creeping up to get one last good look at me. And that's the end.
Lovely, lovely. I do enjoy that one.
Definitely one of my favorite stories.
And hey, everybody who's joining us. Glad you got to hear some stories so far tonight. Stick with us. We
Definitely.
still have some more coming ahead from the two below.
Oh yeah.
Because
I'm
Raz and I
excited.
can't tell a story that's shorter than like 30 minutes apiece.
Yeah, that was one of my shorter ones, and apparently, yeah, it didn't take as long as I thought it would to tell this one. But that one was fun for me because I've never actually done an out loud reading to anyone from this story, and this, other than when I was doing the mime before it was Sounds is Crimson, this was actually the first short story I ever wrote professionally. Was that story? And it's based on a real shack in real woods, right next to, like, not far from a real tree fort me and my brother Ryan had when we were kids out playing in the woods. And this was some story we used to tell ourselves about how there had to have been a monster that lived in this place, and it just kind of stayed in my head over the years. And I've been lucky enough to have a couple of really good narrators actually do a version of the story, so it's kind of fun to get my own one out there and what I've always thought Mr. Jones sounds like.
Yeah, at first I thought it was just a smoker's cup.
No,
Yes.
Did you not notice? I started that at the beginning of the episode, and but that was Once I realized when we started rolling what I was going to read, I kind of figured also that you guys would pick Mr. Jones. I was hoping.
Yes, because we laugh at Mr. Jones.
The original.
We don't dislike Jimmy's toys, but
oh yeah. The original version was just called Mr. Jones, and then
Lighthouse.
and then I joined No Sleep, and everybody's like, "No, you got to have like catchier clickbait titles for people to want to click and read your story." So I was like, "Mr. Jones ... and me," because that Counting Crow song is one of those songs that gets in your head that when you hear like a bar of it, it just stays there. So I thought, give it a shot.
All right. So who's next on this storytelling?
I think it's Matt. It's Matt's actual real life encounter scenario.
Ooh, here we go.
This is a good one too.
Here we go, Matt.
So it was about probably a year to 2 years ago, and being dumb, doing all these teenager things that you're not supposed to do for rebellion. We were having a really good night, and we were partying a little bit. So and we got really, really hungry. The munchies, some people would say. And there's a Thornton's around the corner from the old house where I lived at, and we thought, okay, yeah, we can just go walk down this road. It'll be all right. So we take outside, we take the left side of the house to go to Thornton's because it's the fastest way. And we're having a good time. We get our drinks, we get our snacks, and we decided, you know what? We're just going to explore a little bit more. We're going to take the long way home. And of course, we start walking and we cross the railroad. We're about maybe a quarter of the way home, and we see this guy with a skateboard come over the railroad. Oh yeah, it's cool. Somebody's just riding their skateboard late at night. Yeah, that's awesome. But he just sits there and he's staring at us. And so we get a little bit weary, and I'm like, screw it. Let's just go. This dude's acting super weird. Let's take a run for it. And the moment we start running, this dude gets off of his skateboard and starts bolting towards us as fast as he can. And we see this dude behind us while we're running, and one of my friends named Aiden loses his shoes, his slides. They just flipped right off. We're like, okay, we need to group up. If this dude's gonna come get us, we're just gonna try to take it and beat it if we can. And it gets closer and closer, and all we see are these two white beaming eyes. And we're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. And then out of nowhere, he goes to go get his slides back because he had ran pretty far away. And the next time we look behind us, he's vanished. not there anymore. Mind you, where I used to live, there was a huge, long fields of grass everywhere. It was a knockout of blink and you miss type of city. So we're on eggshells, like all the way rest home, and we get through the door, and I go into my room, and I creak open the the blinds for my room, and all I see in the distance are these white beaming eyes. That's it.
You actually remember when that happened to you because I heard the story from your brother, from your friend Aiden, from a little bit from your mom, and from you because you guys were trying to figure out what the hell was going on and what had happened. And that was a pretty intense situation for you guys, man.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of an opposite of the black-eyed kids sort of thing.
Yeah.
White eyes
Yeah.
and black person chasing you down.
It kind of also reminded me of some of the more modern city-based mimic stories you hear because a lot of people think mimics are just a woods thing, but there've been a lot of accounts of mimic-like things in situations very similar to this. And especially with all the woods, I mean, they were in like, a rural area, but there was still, enough of people around for it to have the sense to like dress approximately human.
Mm-hmm. And the skateboard thing, I'd be like, can you ollie? Okay, can you do a kickflip? Like,
yeah, we just thought it was some random person on the skateboard, man, and then just drops and bolts. We're like, whoa, what is going on?
But that was always my favorite thing to do as skaters. I love you skaters, by the way, and Tony Hawk. But if you ever ask, like if you see somebody on a skateboard and they're being cocky, it's only if they're being cocky do you do it. But you ask them to do a simple trick. Like, hey, can you do a kickflip? And when they go, they're like, dude, I can't just do a kickflip. I can do it. And they rattle off some ridiculously long new name thing with whatever the cool words are at the time.
Yeah.
And they'll go and try to do that, and then they won't. And then they'll try to like slide down a rail over 4 flights of stairs and do a jumping spin while they're doing that, and they will face plant it. And by the time they finally get done trying to show you the coolest thing they do, they can't even ollie or kickflip. So only if you have a cocky one though, because skaters are awesome.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was a quad skater and a rollerblader, but I was way too fat and uncoordinated for a skateboard.
I got pulled on one once. Like they just held my hands and I was tired, so I'm just like, oh, you guys walk me home.
We'd
But
stand
I
on it,
can't
like
skate at all.
grab the bumper of somebody's car and like go through the neighborhood, just standing on it to pretend we were actually skating. We did that a couple times growing up.
I even like roller skating, I wasn't terrible at, but in my dreams, like some of you followers might know, I dream a lot. I sleep like 10 to 12 hours a day on average. And my dreams are insanely detailed. And I remember all of them and all of the parts mostly. And I'm a roller skater, like, but they're like roller blades that work as ice skates too, because I can kind of do a whoosh side thing and stop. And I'm like the most coordinated person in the world in my dreams. And it's so awesome. So that's like a good 30% of them, I'd say. I am skating during. So I'm just like, oh yeah, getting brown. Normally I can't walk through a room without falling down and breaking something. Like I have broken so many toes. I literally have like the surgical tape stuff right here to just fix them. Because that just, I can't walk through a room without face. I stopped myself from falling into my kitchen one time by using my head to catch the doorway entry. That's how Del rolls.
Oh, yes.
I was really going for it. I'm like, what happened? I was trying to go into the kitchen and yes, I fell and yes, I used my head to stop it. Why not your hands? Because I was holding 2 sodas. I had to use my head.
I think I spent like an enormous chunk of my childhood like on skates, man. We'd get 9-volt batteries and little strings of Christmas lights and put like underlights on our skates and like tape them up there. I did barrel jumping, speed skating, boogie bouncing, you name it. If it was skates, I did it. I was into it, man. and it was
You're
such
all
an enormous
cool.
part of my life for so long. I loved it, and I still miss it a lot. The last time I tried to go skating was around when Michelle and I were first getting together. We had this date where we played mini golf, and right next to mini golf was a roller skating rink, and I did it, and I still remember how to go sideways, backwards. I'm going forward, and Michelle's just like, how? I'm like, I didn't know I could still do this, and this is even like rental skates, not even a pair, because I hadn't owned a pair in years at that point in time. And if you don't know this, rental skates are not great because they're never aligned. So you can try and skate straight, but you're really like just doing this shit. It's crazy. And Michelle made it around, I think, the ring once or twice. And she looked at me. She said, I'm done. Never again. I did a few more by myself. And I got off the floor and I said, yeah, I'm too old for this. And I hurt from head to toe for like 4 days after that. But I didn't fall. I didn't fall once. And I also didn't try and do any jumps or go very fast. Just,
Oh, dude, in my dreams, I'm all parkouring and shit, like
Huh?
rolling off the sides. And then I have to wait tables, and it's like I'm the only one
Goes
waiting
right to that.
table. Yeah, it's just like, are you guys some sort of 50 Cent? No, it's just me. I just like to wear roller skates. That's what I do.
Oh yeah, we used to do like leapfrog on skates all the time, like just a whole line of people, and we do like leapfrog while we were moving. You try and parkour off a wall off the corner with your skates, and you'd eat it almost every time because no one could really do that. That's not how physics works.
Well,
But we were pretty sure that we would be the ones that pulled it off, and we never were. We never were.
One of the ways that you can get I used to live in this town called Hooper. It was my hometown, and there was this. Okay, it was a village, I guess, like 600 and some people, whatever. And then there was the town called Fremont, and it had this little interstate thing. And in my dreams, it's always turned into this. It's like a roller coaster almost. Like there's upside down loops and stuff. So if you want to get in my dream world, you can only take certain types of transportation to get from one place to another.
It's like the Barbie movie then. Like I've got to take the jet ski and
but it's like, okay, if you want to go from Hooper to Scribner, you have to take the train. If you want to go from Hooper to Fremont, you can use a bicycle or you can roller skate. And like I get to the thing, I'm like, okay, I got to go upside down to get, like, it never occurs to me that I can just jump from this place to the road or like just walk around it.
So far, the only thing you're missing from the Barbie movie is just the rocket ship.
Okay, well, here's the one that's fun. If I'm in my grandparents' cabin just outside of Tacoma, near the Missouri River, I can go into the river and swim it, mostly underwater. I can breathe underwater, to Omaha.
Of course,
and I will get there. I will get there, and I will take this huge flight of stairs, and I will get out, and I will be in a water park that starts in Omaha and ends in Lincoln. And so I have to get up to the very top level of the water thing so that I can ride it to go into Lincoln. And then I can connect. But I also, like, if I go to Kearney, there's a train that gets me there. And then there's this other train station that goes around. And I can, like, get through places. And I'm going to stop now. I'm sorry. I just started explaining my entire dream to people. And it's just like,
I'm just over here thinking,
I've enjoyed
the
every
underwater
second of it.
levels.
there's so many different levels of things that go on. I have places that I can only find on a map and then actuate in my mind and get down to that it takes place in ancient times, something that raised up a small island by China and has like these huge flowers that you can go to, and it's like a resort, but you can only visit it if you know how to find it on the map in the past and can self-actualize yourself there.
Right.
So
I have two ways of favorite travel when in dreamscapes. That's the Jetsons tube, because it's just always looked fun to me. So that's, for some reason, I can just go to a tube and go whoop. And two, travel by map. I'm talking like a Muppet style. I'll be in a dream and I'll be like, oh man, I need to get to this place, but it's far away. And someone always has a map. And I just go, that's where I want to go. And I touch the map, and then there's a little cut scene where you see the little dots going across the map, and then I'm just there.
I can
my brain
fly,
works that way.
but only in certain ways.
Like certain
and
areas.
Sometimes, but yeah, only in certain places in my dreamscape. And in some of them, it requires me to sit on a bicycle seat. There's no reason. It's just the bicycle seat helps to keep buoyancy and evenness as you go. But it's like a magical bicycle, and a lot of people have them. We're all like hovering around, sitting on bicycle seats. It's kind of weird.
The weirdest way I ever traveled in a dream was this very angry llama that kept spitting at people and would not go forward unless you were reciting limericks for some reason. And the dirtier they were, the faster the llama would travel. So
sounds like a fun little addition in a video game. Like, as fast as you can type in all this stuff, like, the llama keeps going, as long as it recognizes specific words or something.
You're right. Voice activated.
It's the new typing test.
Yeah. If you got quiet, the llama would turn around and try and spit at you, so you had to duck it. Yeah.
I would not be able to ride the llama.
That guy was an
You saw
asshole.
my rapping skills. I'm not going to be able to do it.
I'm just staring at this thing like, there once was a guy from Nantucket. I won't finish that limerick. I should, but I won't.
My limericks are Lovecraftian based, usually. So
All mine are dirty, and many of them came from the Leprechaun franchise from my childhood.
Yes.
okay, fair enough. I will not diss the Leprechaun. I have enjoyed the Leprechaun a time or two.
Leprechaun in the hood, baby.
All right, but we got. Oh, where'd he go? He fell down. Oh my god! Ratatosker is so drunk. He fell off the thing. He's drinking some peanut butter screwball whiskey tonight, guys. I don't know if you're fans, but we've been scrolling off, and we went on to Carrie's Dream World, and I'm sorry, okay. Saw this girl the other day. She's 15. She started doing ventriloquism when she was 10.
Yeah, I'm
She has puppets that she interviews, and Brad Tosker's just sitting here like, he doesn't have a mouth, is my excuse. I can't do ventriloquism, but well, he does have a mouth, but it's sealed shut from all of the alcohol that he drinks, and it just coats it. So
it's understandable.
We've been squirreling off the topic though, and it is time to have our final story of the evening.
Yeah,
Jenny, are you ready?
I'm ready. And yes, Raz, I did go through and I re-edited it before I brought it on tonight.
Oh, nice.
Sal's friend. The train brake screeched and caught everyone's attention on Railroad Street and Hot Water Road. Within minutes, sirens cut through the air. My sister had been gone for hours. We knew she'd gone up the hill to play with one of the neighbor girls. They had been friends for a while. I saw them play in the friend's yard a bunch. It was getting dark, and Mom told me to walk up the hill to get Sal for dinner. I walked out and saw cops and other rescue vehicles stopping on the train track. I bowled up the hill, yelling her name. Selma! Selma! I screamed and screamed until I couldn't scream anymore. I ran around the house her friend lives in. I couldn't find her. I realized the rescue people were at the bottom of the drop-off. I walked over through the few trees beside the road, looking down at what they were doing. The train had stopped, and there was something gnarled on the track. It was so bloody, I couldn't tell what it was. 2 seconds. There we go. I power walked back home and heard Mom screeching unintelligible words. She was bawling and screaming like something was wrong. I saw my sister standing beside her with that little girl. They looked see-through. Sal walked over and put her hand in mine. A scene like a movie played in my mind, and I found out what happened while I worked on the stupid, useless math homework. She ran up the hill to the blue 2-story house. Emma was already playing outside. She wore the same blue gingham dress and tan apron all the time, but Sal figured she liked it. Hi, Emma! How are you doing today? Sal asked. You'll have to catch me and find out, Emma giggled as she started running, her smile so big. Darn it. She ran away. Sal chased after her like she had all summer. She could never figure out why she couldn't catch her, but Emma could always get her. Why was her touch always like a winter wind? They ran around the house and just inside the woods behind the house. They tried not to go far in the woods because of the drop-off and the train tracks. Every so often, Emma would tap Sal's shoulder and giggle as she ran away. Sal tried to catch up as they ran and giggled all evening. It seemed like her hand would go through her arm whenever she got close. As it got dark, Emma handed Sal a pretty blue handkerchief with white and yellow flowers as she stood in the front yard. "Let's play Marco Polo, and I promise to let you catch me," Emma said with a mischievous smile. The smile made Sal nervous, but she complied. "Marco," she said as she heard that Emma had already moved but never heard her steps. She walked towards the sound. When she got where she thought she was closer, she said it again. "Marco! Polo!" she heard from farther away. She continued past the house by touch into the backyard. "Marco! Polo!" from even farther away. She carefully walked closer and found she was just outside the woods when she accidentally kicked a tree. "Marco!" She heard a train on the tracks off in the distance. "Polo!" She heard Emma within the woods. She started to work her way into the trees, the underbrush scraping her legs. After a few steps, she yelled to be heard. The train was closer. "Marco!" "Polo!" She heard from so close in front of her. She started running through the underbrush, thinking only about tackling her friend. The first time winning would be so cool. Suddenly, there was no more ground, and the train horn blared right in her ear as she plummeted and felt the metal of the train engine. After the train passed, she got up and ran to Emma. She wrapped her arms around her and said, "I finally got you." Emma said, "We can play forever," and pointed at the prone form on the tracks. Okay, that's the story.
Oh, that was neat. I love that.
This is when I was so excited to get help beta read for you, Jenny, because I told you before, that ending, man, that was a mind fuck. You think everything's pretty normal, they're just the kids playing, but then when you really stop, it took me that moment after reading it to go, wait, what? And then I immediately had to read it all the way through a second time.
I tried to weave little hints of what was actually happening in.
You did very well. Very well. I love this version. I mean, like I said, I loved all the versions that you have, but this version, man, you did such a good job on this story.
It reminds me a little bit of one of Neil Gaiman's stories where a kid runs away from home and he ends up finding a ghost, but he realizes what it is.
Yeah.
But yours has that different feel to it where it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. I don't know ahead of time what's going on and just wants to have her friend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's very cool.
And I love that it starts in the action, with the, obviously this girl is missing or there's something about there's something going on with the adults and everything in the background. So you get all these beautiful hints and you're not sure what to do because you're in the action when it starts. And that, man, I feel like I get hit by a train when I read the end of that story. In the best way, though. In the best way.
Oh yeah. As long, I just don't want to find out what it is to be hit by a train. My neighbor actually did find out.
Ooh.
Survived or no?
Yeah, that's fun.
For a little bit, but not long.
Oh, that's so good.
I
want to know what it's like to be struck by lightning, but not by experience, because I'd read up on this guy who he's called the luckiest guy on earth, and he'd been struck by lightning 7 times, and his wife had been struck once or twice as well. It was just weird. He carried around a bucket of water to put himself out if he caught on fire, and he actually used it after he was struck by lightning and caught on fire. He also had an encounter with a bear in a fishing pole. That's a really long story, but I assumed that when people got struck by lightning, then that they just lived. And then a couple of weeks ago on the Clutch, we had Sarah Lenz on, and she was showing one of the pictures that went with it was 3 of her great uncles, all in caskets that had a glass top, that all had they call it like lightning flowers.
Oh yeah.
The skin patterns from being struck by lightning.
Mm.
They all got struck by the same bolt and died when they were working out on the farm.
Yep. I was near a spot. It happened in this street right in front of my old house. Just lightning struck the street, but our garage was like really close. The garage openings were really close to the road, and I'm a kid, a dumbass kid, man. I think I'm like maybe 10 or 11, and I was on a cordless phone with the garage door open, just sitting talking. I'm not thinking about shit. And when it hit the street, I guess the discharge of it or something, to this day, I don't understand how lightning like really works like after it hits something. But it actually, I felt a little bit of a zap and pulled the phone away, and a little bit of my earring that I had was melted. Like not like completely like melted and oozed, it was just like a little bit melted and warped. I was like, it felt like a really strong static shock to me.
Wow.
And then later in life, Silent Hill 2 had just come out, and it was super popular and huge. And me and a small group of people would get together at one of our friends' apartments, and in the middle of the night, we'd only play at night because it's Silent Hill, and we would just play the game together, like up close by the TV. We had like an ongoing thing where we would just call the Blockbuster and say, yeah, we're keeping this for another couple days. I think we had it rented out for 3 weeks at this point in time. And we had already beaten it like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And we'd just done a start over, and you get to this beginning part of the game where you go into this really fucked up apartment complex, and you drop your key. Your character drops your keys on the ground, and you go to pick up the keys, and you look up, and there's this like a Silent Hill creature, just almost like a zombie-ish, just staring at you in the gate. And as that happened, we knew what was about to happen. The jump scare was coming. We're all excited. I got the controller in my hand, and lightning hit the side of the apartment complex. And this was a corded controller. And I can tell you, boys and girls, your parents were not lying to you. It hit the TV antenna on the side of the whole apartment complex. It went through. It fried things in people's houses. And when it hit the PlayStation, it did not somehow fuck up the PlayStation. I don't know how it didn't. Maybe I grounded it. I don't know what. But I got a really fucking painful jolt in my hand. And I don't know how I was able to let it go, but I was able to let it go, and it like knocked me back, like not like across the room or nothing, just kind of knocked me back a little bit. And from then on, we never played that game at night again. We only played it during the day, because I cannot imagine a more. And I knew this jump scare was coming. I just didn't know that I was going to get mildly electrocuted when it happened that time.
Just mildly electrocuted.
Just mildly, no big deal.
So, hey guys, we've been on for going on about 2.5 hours here.
Yep.
We've shared all of our stories. We told you we have some new stuff coming up, but something we didn't talk about because it happened suddenly. We have been doing our Unwrapped show, and we've decided that we're going to start including some stuff for some younger viewers. So there will be PG content being released very soon from Elliott. And part of soon is, tomorrow.
Yeah, the first one.
Because we plan it so well. But we are going to. Oh, we need to keep down the banner. The Illuminated Owlet Society Unwrapped will be premiering tomorrow, and with that, we are going to be opening up a kids set of a box. And Jenny, you know a little bit more about it, so could you please fill us in on how it got put together?
So my daughter had asked for their special gift for reading all summer this time could be the Attack of Shoe Mountain book by Patricia Harris. And she agreed to make something special. And she'd sent little packages for each of the kids. Tomorrow, my sidekick is going to be Cassie, and we're going to show her package that she received to show what, and inside all the kids will have gotten the same thing. And we're going to have Patricia Harris come on and talk with us, with me and my little beautiful girl. And yes, she actually does have an owl light in her room. I had it as my profile picture for a little while. And I don't know how that worked. Gina got them the owl light. The mom of some of the kids who are getting the packages. And then I got invited to be part of the Owlite Society just right after I got that. And I'm like, okay, just meant to be. That's how it's going to work. So, yeah, tomorrow we are going to come on with the author and Cassie, and we are just going to have a nice little conversation and talk about the beautiful little surprises she got as the reward for doing reading all summer and us learning all about random facts about any animals and whatever she found.
That's
That is
so
very
amazing.
cool.
I'm so
I-
glad we're doing this, man, because we talked about also doing like a younger kids and a teenage kid version of Allied Society. Like we've been talking about doing a lot of stuff like that, and I don't know, it's a special thing that we get to do, and it means a lot to me, man. It's so awesome.
I love helping you with, but like I haven't done it as much as I should. But when you guys are like, you send me a message, and one of your kids is asking like, "What's your favorite animal?" So I want to learn about it, and then being able to be like, "Oh, I'm really into the octopus right now, so like check out this video, like the octopus dreaming," and being able to share stuff back and forth with your children is just a joy. It is so much fun.
Yeah, she had found this National Geographic book about sea creatures, and there were multiple different octopuses in the book. So we carried it on into our science lessons from the videos you shared, and then we found more about it. And it's just like it just weaves into everything.
Oh yeah.
Just summer we refuse to cut out science in our little alchemy classes. What we call our home ec classes, where we learn to bake and cook various things. Sounds more fun if it's alchemy.
Yeah.
Alchemy is very fun. Yes.
And this is how you poison your pancakes. I'm just playing. If there were any moment there was a time for that, it was then.
Nutmeg. We don't poison them. Unless you're allergic to cinnamon, then you probably shouldn't eat breakfast with us.
Probably shouldn't eat most things. I'm allergic to mangoes, which is very specific, but they've become a thing lately. Like over the past, it's like been like 15, 20 years or so that they started becoming like huge.
Mango habanero.
And I always have to like ask if I see anything mango on the menu, just make, because like when I was cooking, I had to cook with mangoes. And if you're allergic to a food, you aren't just allergic to eating it, you're allergic to touching it as well.
Yes.
And
strong sense of it can trigger you, yeah.
Yeah, I had my gloves on and stuff to get the mangoes, but I still ended up having red welts going up my arms trying to make a mango salsa and getting congested and everything. And so I would make everything but the mango part of the mango salsa at the one job I worked. And but I've learned like even the minute amount of it that they use in things like the liqueur hypnotique. I'm saying all these fancy words right now, but that will like a shot's worth of that will totally have me breaking out in hives and just dying. So I was out the other night with my mom, and we went to this place called Azteca, which is fabulous. You guys live by Omaha, Nebraska at all? Azteca.
We have a mixteca here.
This is just like a family-owned business. It's wonderful. It's off like 144th Street. They just added a Scooters nearby, so you can grab your coffee to go on the way out, or go and get the Mickey D's one. It's close to. But they had a new thing on the menu, and like we have loved this place forever because it is cheaper to go inside, sit down. You get served like a couple of different salsas and some beans and this cabbage slaw that are awesome with chips for free. And then you order your food, and it comes out like I get a full meal for like $10 to $15 that is out within like 5 or 10 minutes after ordering. And it's cheaper than going through a drive-through, and yet you're getting these huge meals that you're taking half of it home with. But they had calamari on the menu as like a new item, and I was like, well, I have never tried calamari here. I love calamari. We get it everywhere we go. And Mom's like, I don't think we need to order it because it's not the kind of place where you get calamari. And I'm like, but Mom, it's calamari. And we ordered it, and it was like when you get that fake K crab, it was like tubes in a fish stick size of calamari that was just kind of like ground and put together. And then I like dipped it in the sauce that it came with, and I was like, oh shit, I know that taste. And it was a mango habanero dipping sauce that they served my So I was like, is that mango? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm allergic. And she's like yanked it off the table. She was like, we don't get you. I'm like, I had one bite. I should be okay. Just one bite. I'm good. But calamari fish sticks, not on a recommend. Everything else at Azteca, go for it, guys.
Almost
You're good,
dying of an allergy. 2 thumbs up.
Well, you
Michelle-
have to check.
Michelle is allergic to iodine, and there's a lot of iodine in seafood, right?
Yeah.
And over time, she actually developed a side allergy to seafood. So if she smells it too strongly, like at a grocery market or where it's got fresh fish, she's got to avoid the aisles. Sometimes you can't avoid it, so she'll just have to leave, go out to the car. It's been a while since that's happened. But her favorite thing to eat is crab rangoon, like real crab rangoon. So what me and Matt have to do is buy boxes of Benadryl to make sure Michelle doesn't die, so she can have crab rangoon. So it's a huge joke that one day we're just going to kill her. We're going to kill her with seafood. It'll just be like an all-you-can-eat crab rangoon bar, and that's how she wants to go.
My brother-in-law is allergic to nuts and poultry.
Oh, no.
Which is a weird one. And I don't eat chicken. Like, I love turkey. Fuck chicken. I raised chickens. I worked in restaurants for so many years that I have cut so much raw chicken. It's nothing like, ooh, it's super gross the way they start. No, it's slimy, and chickens are fucking stupid. If you ever have to raise them, you will hate them. And as my old boss said, chickens follow cows.
Yeah.
Chickens will eat anything, so take from that what you will.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so at least like between the two of us, like there could be like one dish put together, like a mango chicken cashew thing or something, and we just both die.
You know how we used to handle chickens on the farm on beheading day? You take
this?
No, you take an old slip and slide, right? And put just a row of boxes down the center, like something that would stab, like so you could box in lanes, and then you and your friend would have stumps, right? You shake the chicken out, cut its head off, and throw it on the slip and slide, and you'd see how far they could run down it, and you'd make your bet. People would gather around, you'd make your bets, and it was a game.
I don't know. I don't know if it's more fun that I know a story about somebody who used to use the slides at meatpacking plants that they would slide everything down with as slip and slides and splatter the blood everywhere.
You told me that one, yeah.
About just that you did that to your chickens. Like, wow, man.
I mean, I didn't come up with a game. I just participated. I worked, we did the slaughterhouse thing. But the thing is, like, it's weird because a lot of people say, like, if you've ever done this, you'll never eat meat again. No, I mean, we would at the slaughterhouse. You knew what you wanted. You'd get the best cuts, and you would grill some of the meat that you did that day. Like after work, we would get together. But none of us ever wanted to fucking eat the chickens. None of us ever wanted to eat the chickens. We had to do something to lose ourselves.
So, as part of the ag class, we not only learned how to raise the animals, take care of the animals, and everything on the farm, and then you'd go to the slaughterhouses. And you'd learn how they were dispatched, whether it be the cows or the chickens. And the thing about the chickens is they would take a bunch of them, set them up on this little hook device, and just lower them in and electrocute them in vats of water.
Yep.
And I just thought that was like more inventive than I could ever think of just doing a whole bunch at once. It never occurred to me to do batches like that.
I had never heard that.
Here's the most inventive way I've ever heard of. Did not witness this. I'm pretty sure this was a bullshit story, but it's just always stuck with me. So my great uncle, his other side of the family would have been my third cousin in Tennessee. Right after the Ghost Ship movie came out, you guys all know the opening of Ghost Ship with the razor wire and This is the only part I've seen, actually. It's one of the best openings to any movie ever made of any genre. And supposedly, someone on a farm, it was like 5 or 6 farms down the other direction from the family farm, set up a scene in the backyard chicken area where it looked like they ran a little ship and had them like strung in certain places with the pull string ready to go with the razor wire, and they reenacted it it was like. I think they said like supposedly it was like 26 or 27 chickens all at once. Just Again, I don't believe this story at all. I'm pretty sure it's bullshit, but it's in my brain ever since that movie came out. Like now when I watch it, I think of chickens when I'm watching all the people die.
Kid friendly, everybody. The Illuminated Owlet Society coming up tomorrow.
It's
Where we will
family
not-
entertainment. No chicken shall die in the making of that episode.
My nephew's going to see this later, and it's not going to. They watch horror movies and everything. It's not going to bother him. He's in his early teens, so it's just like, you know what? You guys are going to listen to this.
Yeah, just
Aunt
watch
Jenny
Ghost
and
Ship
her
after.
friends did this, and you guys on the game are going to hear it while I hear it. So he just tortures his friends with our stories. So it's great.
You guys can get together, watch Ghost
Awesome.
Ship afterwards, and just have a good time. Make a whole evening.
Grab a little recording of "You are very welcome for having this shit run through your head and being a teen." And I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not at all. I really hope that this shit just lasts and lasts because it's going to build character. Damn it! It's going to build you into being a strong human being.
Yes, all the
That's all I got.
Metallica, all of the horror movies, all of our weird stories. He's going to be the coolest kid ever of all time with his parents and us.
Hell yeah.
Get that. All right, guys. We have broken the 2.5
I like how you
hour
said that
mark.
earlier, but then you told us the whole story about the allergy. We
Oh,
gotta
shit,
go.
yeah.
We're doing a kid
Oh,
show. By the way, I'm
Say
allergic to
about the
mangoes.
I
Gonna
just
be
couldn't
left
get a
so
word
hard.
in edgewise with the allergy because my thing was, well, my kid's not allergic to hazelnuts. We've had him tested, but he is allergic to
It's very
Nutella,
specific.
Bueno, and all those things that have hazelnut and chocolate and other things in it.
Right.
So that entire thing, I can't let him have because he will break out. He will need the Benadryl.
Yeah.
So we had to do something different. The girls get the Nutella, so he gets his own special jar of honey roasted Peter Pan peanut butter.
Ooh,
So he gets the
that's a
special
good
thing. He gets to keep it in there in his room, and whenever he's ready, he brings it out and he gets his special spoons, whether it be a zebra or an elephant or whatever from the drawer, and because they're animal spoons, that's what we got. And then he eats it, just spoon at a time. So it's
so
a good
cute.
trade-off. He
You know what
took
we
it as
Matt's
Oh,
actually
sorry.
allergic to nuts. These nuts.
I don't
No.
understand that allergy, but he took
Except
it
for
as
Tuesdays.
a compromise.
Okay, have you ever made? Do you know how you make the peanut butter, like Reese's peanut butter cups, homemade?
Mhm.
You just mix powdered sugar with the peanut butter until it reaches the state where it's solid enough to dip it in the chocolate and stuff.
Mhm.
Dark chocolate, honey roasted peanut butter cups. It'd be so good.
You know what poor man's Reese's
Yes.
was to us when we were kids? Just a spoonful of, literally a spoonful of peanut butter with those little chocolate chip things. You just put them in the peanut butter and just eat from the spoon. If you want a Reese cup, you were just gonna get past the spoon, and that's what it was. You didn't get real Reese cups.
You still got peanut butter and chocolate.
Yeah.
So
That's the only one I'll eat
Oh, yeah.
peanut butter because I hate peanut butter.
all right.
This
It really
time's real,
is
guys.
like, yeah, for realsies. We're gonna do this circle. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you. I'm gonna start with Jenny and work our way counterclockwise because I'm a dick like that.
Yeah.
So let us know what you're doing, how you're doing, where to find you, all that stuff.
Hey, I'm Jenny, also known as Friday Blue. Find me at Friday's Library in the Blue Box, Friday's Disorganized Library Group, Corpse Garden Chronicles. I am in the process of writing another poetry book, and I am in the process of continuing the actual rest of the story for the last story I read. There is more to it, more to that, the life of the sister that lived. And I'm just hanging out with these guys, trying to learn more about social media. Come and find all of us later. Bye!
And Matt, where do you want people to find you, and what are you doing?
You can come find me on Facebook at Matt Propz, and then with Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitch, it's the name you see on the screen right now, Matt Props. And with with that in mind, I'm pretty sure this Friday is another episode of Mats and Monsters, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. And all of these links, by the way, should be either above or below, depending on where you're at. We'll go around. You can find me either here on the Owlite Network under Delphine Galdracaca, which is the Chanting Crow, or you can go and find Carrie, Kari Sanders, on Facebook. And if you see the crow, you know it's me. I'm involved with a lot of the shows here on the Owlite, as well as over on the Dorkening, where I am sometimes on splash pages and generally on Midweek Geeks.
You can find me right here in my chair every time you click the button to watch one of our episodes. Thank you. I've said it all so many times. One time it was I don't know, like I think it was when we did an unprinted pages. I was like, my name is Raz. I'm a Virgo. I like long walks in the woods at night where no one can hear you scream. I've just been coming up with random shilling. Like, I'm so tired of just going through everything.
Basically, look up Raz T Slasher and you can find him anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, Jenny has assured, our girl Friday down there has made sure that he is everywhere you can possibly look, and she does an amazing job, guys. She does all of our Owlite promotion and stuff. And she's just like, oh, and I'm making rooms for this. And I'm doing, and just like, what?
Killing it, man.
Yeah. So everything that we're sending out, thank Jenny for that, because she's awesome. And with that, y'all have a good night.
Yeah, good. Bye.